subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
She has such a strong strength at this age. The boy is called Kamisato Tsukika, 12 and a half years old this year, and is a very good child. Hitaki Kakashi saw Jiraiya looking at Kamisato Tsukika and said Kamisato Tsukika's age. Oh, 12 and a half years old? What a genius! With a sigh, Jiraiya retracted his gaze and looked at the giant snake. This giant snake is really powerful, and his toad alone may not be its opponent. It seems that he has to do it himself. Me? Where is the third generation? Jiraiya asked. In the arena, surrounded by the four purple flame formation. Hearing Hitaki Kakashi's answer, Jiraiya frowned and stopped talking. But in his heart, he was praying that the third generation must not get into trouble. After clearing out several ninjas from Sunagakure and Oto Ninja Village again, Kamisato Tsukika stopped chasing the others and jumped to a nearby house. Jiraiya appeared. According to the plot, the third generation should be almost over now. Kamisato Tsukika thought of this and knew that it was time to take action. He quickly moved towards the giant snake and broke into the battle between the giant snake and the toad. In Jiraiya's blind spot, he painted the Flying Thunder God spell on the inside of the toad's clothes. The toad was too big, and the Flying Thunder God spell was only the size of a thumb, and it was on the inside of the toad's clothes, so it would not be discovered at all. After deliberately using lightning style to attack the giant snake, but failed, Kamisato Tsukika retreated and came to Hitaki Kakashi and Jiraiya. You are too bold. You actually fight so close. It's too dangerous. Jiraiya couldn't help but speak to Kamisato Tsukika. Kamisato Tsukika's intrusion just now scared him for a day. You're a toad sage, Jiraiya-senpai, right? I have heard of you for a long time. I just wanted to know if lightning style can pierce the snake skin of that big guy, but failed as usual. Kamiri Tsukika pretended to be regretful, and then before Jiraiya could say anything to Hitaki Kakashi, she quickly spoke first. Since Jiraiya-senpai is here, this giant snake can definitely be dealt with. I will go back to the arena to see what is going on with the third generation master. Thank you for your help, Jiraiya-senpai, Kakashi-senpai, and Guy teacher. After saying that, Kamisato Tsukika's body disappeared instantly. This kid is too impatient. Jiraiya's mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but complain. He just cares too much about the third generation master. Kamisato Tsukika is usually a very calm person. Hitaki Kakashi explained for Kamisato Tsukika. Is that so? Well, since you've been asked by a junior, it seems like you have to show your true abilities. If you can't even deal with this little snake, you'll be looked down upon. Jiraiya was very satisfied with Hitaki Kakashi's explanation, and Kamisato Tsukika's support for the third generation made him feel relieved. Looking at the huge, three-headed snake, Jiraiya twisted his fist and spoke. Chapter 82, Breaking the Four Purple Flame Formation. In the arena, in the Four Purple Flame Formation. At this time, the third Hokage was facing the siege of the first Hokage and the second Hokage, and was already injured and looked precarious. Outside the barrier, many Konoha ninjas had gathered, but they were all blocked here and could not enter the barrier to help the third Hokage. Kurenai Yuhi was also there. She was watching the battle inside, and was very anxious because she could see that the third Hokage was in a bad situation. Suddenly, Kamisato Tsukika appeared beside Kurenai Yuhi. Who? Huh, you are here. Find a way to support the Hokage-sama. Seeing Kamisato Tsukika appear, Kurenai Yuhi breathed a sigh of relief and immediately spoke to Kamisato Tsukika. When the other ninjas saw Kamisato Tsukika appear, their eyes lit up and they looked at Kamisato Tsukika, expecting him to continue to create miracles. Especially Sir Toby Asuma. He had tried all kinds of bursts just now, but to no avail, and could not break the four purple flame formation at all, which made him watch his father being besieged and hate himself for being useless. Kamisato Uehua nodded. Although the four purple flame formation seemed invincible in the early stage of Hokage, It trapped the third Hokage inside. However, the 4 purple flame formation was no longer effective in the later stage. Especially when facing the adult Naruto, it was easily broken. Kamisato Tsukika didn't know if she could break this barrier, but she could try. If she really couldn't, she could only expose her Flying Thunder God technique. No, it should be said that it was the Teleportation Technique. Although the deduction from Flying Thunder God technique to Teleportation Technique was still about 30%, that meant that the effect of instant teleportation after the Flying Thunder God technique was completely optimized was the same as the effect of the technique. If it was just a short distance, such as fixed-point teleportation within 10 meters, Kamisato Tsukika could do it now. However, this teleportation was not as smooth as the Flying Thunder God technique. 3rd Generation Master, please hold on a little longer. I will break this barrier. Kamisato Tsukika spoke loudly to the 3rd Hokage in the barrier. Hearing this, the 4 Otonin in the barrier sneered, but the 3rd Hokage and Orochi stopped fighting temporarily. Orochimaru looked at Kamisato Tsukika outside the barrier, his face a little gloomy. From what Kamisato Tsukika said, he wanted to support the 3rd Hokage. That is, he didn't want the 3rd Hokage to die. So, should he stop here? After all, his life is still in Kamisato Tsukika's hands. That was the Flying Thunder God technique just now. It seems that he has a very powerful group. Orochimaru spoke to the 3rd Hokage, intending to delay time for Kamisato Tsukika to break the barrier, and then he could retreat. Yes, a young man who is more talented than you. The 3rd Hokage smiled, and smiled easily. When he saw Orochimaru today, he thought a lot in his heart. When the 3rd Hokage heard Orochimaru say that he didn't want to see things stay the same and wanted the windmill to continue turning, he had even decided to become the wind. Just now, after discovering that Orochimaru was playing with the souls of the dead and carrying out living corpse reincarnation, the 3rd Hokage had decided to use Impure World Reincarnation to get rid of Orochimaru himself. This was his disciple. It was he who let Orochimaru escape from Konoha because of his soft heart. Today, he will make up for his mistake himself. As for Konoha, before Kamisato Tsukika appeared, the 3rd Hokage was not at ease with Konoha. He was afraid that Konoha would be invaded by other ninja villages after his death. Although he is old, he still has some deterrent power. But Kamisato Tsukika suddenly appeared, especially after Kamisato Tsukika learned the Flying Thunder God technique. Deisai, the 3rd Hokage, was relieved. With Kamisato Tsukika, Konoha will not fall even if he dies. Moreover, as time goes by, Kamisato Tsukika becomes stronger and stronger, and Konoha will be peaceful for decades in the future. FFFLX. Orochimaru, I let you go by mistake more than 10 years ago. Today, everything should be over. The 3rd Hokage spoke to Orochimaru calmly, because his heart had already made a decision. Once Konoha lacked a tree, he was willing to become Konoha's tree. Now, since Konoha lacks a gust of wind, he will become a gust of wind, whether it is a tree or a wind. It is all about the will to sacrifice. Ninjutsu. Shiki Fujin Technique. Hearing the 3rd Hokage's calm words, Orochimaru did not realize the seriousness of the matter. He just smiled confidently and said, "It seems that Mr. Sarutobi has determined that I will die here today. It's really sad. However, I am very different from me more than 10 years ago. With your old body like Mr. Sarutobi, it may be difficult to put an end to me." Orochimaru spoke and continued to control the 1st Hokage and the 2nd Hokage to attack the 3rd Hokage. And the 3rd Hokage also moved again. But this time, his goal was Orochimaru's soul. Outside the barrier. How do you plan to break the barrier? Yuhi Kurenai couldn't help asking. They had tried many ways just now, but failed. Others also looked at Kamisato Tsukika because they were curious. I don't have any good way. I can only try to see if I can break it directly. Hearing this, many people were disappointed. We just tried this method. I'm afraid it won't work. Just now, more than 10 ninjas attacked the barrier together, and it didn't open. This barrier needs to attack the person who maintains the barrier. A ninja spoke up, and immediately the others nodded. I know, but I have to try it. I happen to have a ninjutsu with a very strong single target attack. If it doesn't work, I'll try another way. Kamisato Tsukika spoke. Hearing him say this, the other ninjas stopped talking and just asked if they needed help. Kamisato Tsukika shook his head and asked everyone to move aside a little. After everyone moved aside a little, Kamisato Tsukika stepped back a few steps and then stretched out his right hand. A high-speed, rotating chakra ball began to appear on his hand. Is this Rasengan? Some people immediately recognized the Rasengan in Kamisato Tsukika's hand. After all, this was also the ninjutsu that the fourth Hokage was good at back then. But it was precisely because they recognized the Rasengan that they felt even less confident. After all, although this ninjutsu has a strong attack power, it is not enough to break the barrier. However, how could Kamisato Tsukika only use the Rasengan? After he condensed the Rasengan, he added the thunder attribute to it. Zzzz, zzzz. Looking at the Rasengan in Kamisato Tsukika's hand with silver lightning, it is unclear. People who knew the Rasengan didn't think much of it, but people who knew the Rasengan were wide-eyed, especially Sarutobi Asuma. He looked at the Rasengan in Kamisato Tsukika's hand and took a deep breath. What a terrible talent! Sarutobi Asuma was amazed, and a glimmer of hope appeared in his heart. Perhaps Kamisato Tsukika could really break the four purple flame formation. Kamisato Tsukika ignored the gazes of others, nor did he pay attention to the thoughts of others. He just kept filling chakra into the Rasengan of. The Chunin couldn't help swallowing their saliva, and sweat was pouring out of their heads. The Chunin and Sarutobi Asuma all felt the horror of this Rasengan, and their intuition told them that it was a very dangerous thing. In the barrier, the four Odonin saw the lightning Rasengan in Kamisato Tsukika's hand, and their hearts became heavy. Thunderbolt! Suddenly, Kamisato Tsukika slammed the lightning Rasengan in her hand into the four purple flame formation. Suddenly, the four purple flame formation shook violently. However, it was not over yet. As Kamisato Tsukika pushed the lightning Rasengan into the barrier, the interface of the four purple flame formation seemed to begin to tremble. Crack, 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 crack. The sound of cracking sounded, and everyone hurriedly looked at the four purple flame formation and saw that cracks appeared on it again. This made the four Odonin who maintained the barrier have a bad premonition in their hearts, and their faces changed. They quickly increased the chakra input, trying to maintain the four purple flame formation and prevent it from collapsing. The Konoha shinobi stared with their eyes wide open, and at the same time they were looking forward to it. Come on! Almost all the Konoha shinobi were cheering for Kamisato Tsukika at this time, expecting Kamisato Tsukika to create a miracle. Break it! With a low roar from Kamisato Tsukika, the four purple flame formation was broken. Crash! It was as if glass was broken, and the four purple flame formation shattered directly. The four Odonin who maintained the four purple flame formation fell on the roof, as if their bodies were hit by something. Orochimaru, who was caught by the third Hokage at this time, also changed his face. He didn't realize that his soul had been pulled by the third Hokage. Similarly, the third Hokage also showed a surprised look. To be honest, he really didn't expect Kamisato Tsukika to be able to break the four purple flame formation. When Kamisato Tsukika told him to hold on just now, he was just comforted in his heart, but he didn't believe Kamisato Tsukika enough to say it. However, now, Kamisato Tsukika actually broke the four purple flame formation. Ha, good, good. Tsukika boy really never lets me down. In this case, I am more relieved. The third Hokage said with a smile. Hee, Teacher Sarutobi, you seem to be very confident in that boy. Aren't you afraid that he is an Orochimaru? Seeing this, Orochimaru couldn't help but start to stimulate the third Hokage. However, the third Hokage shook his head. No, Tsukika is completely different from you. His talent is higher than yours. He has a deeper bond with the village than you. He is the one who truly inherited the will of fire. After the third Hokage finished speaking, Orochimaru's face suddenly changed. He saw Kamisato Tsukika breaking the four purple flame formation and was ready to slip away first. However, when he was secretly using the ninjutsu, Orochimaru found that he could not use the ninjutsu. Hee, you just realized it now? Orochimaru, look at your soul. You will die soon. The third Hokage spoke, and Orochimaru's face changed drastically when he looked down. Chapter 83. Death of the Third Generation. Seeing his soul being pulled, Orochimaru, who had always been calm, finally panicked. He felt the threat of death. If the third Hokage succeeded, he would die. Damn it, what's going on? Orochimaru cursed. He didn't even notice when he was hit. He hurriedly tried to pull his soul back into his body. However, Orochimaru found that he couldn't do it at all. His hands seemed to be unable to form seals. Or in other words, he couldn't use ninjutsu after forming the seals. This made Orochimaru completely panic. It's useless, Orochimaru. This is a forbidden technique that can seal people's souls. It is a forbidden technique that sacrifices the souls of oneself and the enemy to the Shinigami. I will take your soul and seal it in the belly of the Shinigami forever. The third Hokage continued to speak, and as he spoke, Orochimaru finally saw the huge Shinigami behind the third Hokage. This made Orochimaru sweat profusely, and his eyes were terrified. Third Generation Master, we are here to support you. Hearing the voice in his ear, the third Hokage saw several Konoha shinobi rushing over quickly. The leader was Kamisato Tsukika and his son, Sarutobi Asuma. Don't worry about me, and don't worry about Orochimaru. The third Hokage, Sarutobi Asuma, spoke to stop them before they attacked Orochimaru. I have used the forbidden technique, and soon I will die with Orochimaru. Don't interrupt me. When these words came out, everyone felt like a thunderbolt in their minds, and they all widened their eyes and were at a loss. Kamiri Tsukika's face also changed. He had never thought of letting the third Hokage die in this Konoha collapse plan. In his plan, there was only one person who needed to die in this incident, Shimura Dance. However, after hearing what the third Hokage said, Kamisato Tsukika knew very well that the third Hokage had already used the reanimation jutsu. But there's no need at all. The third Hokage does not need to use the reanimation jutsu at all. He has already broken the 4 purple flame formation, and Orochimaru seems to be doomed. Damn old man, why do you take my life? Orochimaru was furious after failing to fight for his soul again. He did not care that Kamisato Uehua was also here and could not help but scold the third Hokage. However, the third Hokage ignored Orochimaru at all. He looked at the sad Konoha shinobi present and Sarutobi Asuma. Then he opened his mouth and was about to say something. Kamisato Uehua guessed that the third Hokage might be talking about the selection of the 5th Hokage. But before the third Hokage could speak, he was interrupted by the crazy Orochimaru. Puff! Orochimaru's sword on the ground suddenly flew up, and before people could react, it pierced the third Hokage's body directly from the back. This made the third Hokage's eyes widen, and he couldn't help spitting out blood. This also loosened the third Hokage's power to pull Orochimaru's soul, allowing Orochimaru's soul to be pulled back a little. Third Generation Master. The sudden change made the Konoha shinobi present exclaim, and Sarutobi Asuma couldn't help but come to Orochimaru's side, and the flying swallow in his hand suddenly cut off one of Orochimaru's arms. Asuma. The third Hokage spoke with difficulty. Unlike the original story, this time, Orochimaru pierced his heart instead of his chest. Hold on, the medical ninja will be here soon. At this moment, Sarutobi Asuma's body was shaking and his eyes were red. Even though the father and son had a quarrel for some reason, at this moment, the third Hokage was about to die, and Sarutobi Asuma had no time to think about those unhappy things. Remember, after I die, the 5th generation, the third Hokage stared at Orochimaru, and he felt that his life was slipping away quickly. So he had to wait for you to explain the aftermath. At least he needed to determine the successor. However, when he said this, Orochimaru, who had realized that he was going to die here today, controlled the Kusanagi sword to twist directly in the third Hokage's heart. Suddenly, the third Hokage's eyes widened and blood spit out again. This also made the third Hokage realize that he could no longer explain anything, and he completely gave up talking. Instead, he put his last energy on Orochimaru and fought with Orochimaru for Orochimaru's soul. At this time, Shinigami waved the knife in his hand. Swish! The third Hokage and a small part of Orochimaru's soul were directly cut off by Shinigami, and then eaten by Shinigami in a few bites. At the same time, the third Hokage also let go of his hands that were tightly holding Orochimaru. His body softened and fell backwards. When he fell, looking at the angry Orochimaru, the third Hokage smiled slightly. He could no longer hear what Orochimaru was saying, nor could he hear any sound around him. Finally, looking at Orochimaru's face, the third Hokage vaguely felt that he seemed to see the boy he used to be. Third generation master. The ninjas cried out in grief. Sarutobi Asuma looked at the third Hokage who fell in his arms, and tears could not help but flow down. And Kamisato Tsukika stood aside, looking at the fallen third Hokage, and after a few seconds of silence, she turned around and looked at Orochimaru. At this time, Orochimaru shrank his hands. The souls of his hands had been eaten by the Shinigami, and they were completely useless. He would not be able to make hand seals in the future. In other words, Orochimaru's ninjutsu was taken away directly. This made Orochimaru unacceptable, and the blow was too great. Looking at the look in Kamisato Tsukika's eyes, Orochimaru knew that he could not escape death today. Thinking of the Heaven's Curse seal that he had carved for Uchiha Sasuke and Mitarashi Anko, Orochimaru calmed down. As long as that thing was still there, there was hope. Thinking in his heart, Orochimaru's face gradually calmed down. I never thought that I would be brought to such an embarrassing state by these two old guys, he said, although he knew that he was doomed. In order to make a comeback in the future, Orochimaru decided to fulfill his promise with Kamisato Tsukika first. 2. Kamisato Tsukika said coldly, if it weren't for the fact that old guy Shimura Dans was too useless and didn't get this forbidden technique for me in advance, how could I be forced into this situation by old guy Sarutobi? Orochimaru spoke, and the words he said made everyone quiet. Shimura Dans? Could this matter be related to Shimura Dans? Explain the matter clearly. Why did Shimura Dans get this forbidden technique for you in advance? Seeing that Orochimaru didn't want to talk after he finished speaking, a ninja couldn't help but speak loudly and questioned Orochimaru. However, Orochimaru just glanced at him and scared him into a cold sweat. This also made the ninjas present realize that even if Orochimaru looked embarrassed now, he was still Orochimaru, the legendary Sannin. If you want to know why, you could just go to the root and find it yourself. But you'd better hurry up. Since this operation failed, Shimura Dans should have started to destroy some things. After all, that old guy is very smart. Orochimaru smiled and said he was looking forward to seeing Shimura Dans facing these people's questioning. Catch Orochimaru. We will support other ninjas first. Sarutobi Asuma took a deep breath and said coldly. He was very angry now. What they should do now is to support other places and maintain the stability and security of the village. Instead of listening to Orochimaru's one-sided words and causing trouble for the village's root leader, causing new civil strife. Orochimaru also smiled disdainfully when he saw this. Catch him? Humph Tianjin Shan. Chapter 84. Furious Danzo, even though Orochimaru has lost both hands, he is still Orochimaru, and he cannot be manipulated by ordinary ninjas at will. To be honest, if Kamisato Yuehua was not still here, how could he surrender and wait for death? It is impossible, but there is no way. Orochimaru saw the murderous intent in Kamisato Yuehua's eyes just now, and he knew that he might have no choice but to die today. Of course, this is also because Orochimaru still has confidence, and death is nothing to him. As long as the cursed seal he left is still there, he can still be resurrected. He has already left a backup plan for resurrection. If this death means complete death, then even if he faces Kamisato Yuehua, he will fight and try his best to seize a glimmer of hope to survive. After all, only by being alive can you have everything. Kamisato Yuehua knows what Orochimaru's confidence is, but he does not intend to make it clear. Orochimaru must die today because of the sacrifice of the third Hokage. After all, the third Hokage had a favor to him. If the third Hokage was fine this time, he would cooperate with Orochimaru to get rid of Shimura Dance and then let Orochimaru go. But the third Hokage died. Orochimaru must be buried with the third Hokage. But after Orochimaru died today, even if Ikushi Kabuto was caught, even if the backup plan left by Orochimaru failed, Shun Yuehua would revive Orochimaru again. He needed Orochimaru as a tool. I'm going to clean up the ninjas of the Sound Village and Sunagakure in the village, Shun Yuehua said. Since Sarutobi Asuma didn't care about the death of the third Hokage and rushed to find trouble with Shimura Dance, then there was no need for him to stay here. After speaking to several people, Shun Yuehua's body disappeared directly from the spot. He was not afraid that Orochimaru would say something to Sarutobi Asuma and others after he left. Orochimaru didn't dare and wouldn't do that. He's a very smart man. He knows that if he escapes from here or resurrects in the future, he will definitely have to deal with Kamisato Tsukika. It is not worth offending Kamisato Tsukika today. After Kamisato Tsukika left, Sarutobi Asuma took Orochimaru to Konoha prison, intending to lock Orochimaru up first. Along with him were the 4 Oda Shinen, who were also captured by the Konoha shinobi. In Konoha village, because Kamisato Tsukika had killed many Sunagakure and Oda Shinen ninjas before, there were few ninjas who broke into the residential area of the village. And these ninjas are also decreasing rapidly at this time. After all, there are many powerful ninjas in Konoha village. They were very calm in the previous incidents and did not rush to other places for support. At this time, facing these Sunagakure and Oda Shinen ninjas who broke through the residential area, they will naturally not be merciful. After Kamisato Tsukika left Sarutobi Asuma and his group, he moved quickly in the residential area of Konoha. He was very upset and wanted to vent his inner emotions. Therefore, the ninjas in the village saw Kamisato Tsukika's rapid killing. In the open space near the Hyuga clan, looking at the corpses on the ground, thinking of Kamisato Tsukika, who suddenly appeared and disappeared after a burst of killing, Hyuga Hayashi was shocked. After seeing Hyuga Niji's revolving heaven and 8 trigrams, 64 palms today, Hyuga Niji was already the most talented person of the younger generation of Konoha in his heart. However, now, Hyuga Hayashi felt that he could no longer understand young people. Similarly, on the roof of Nara Shikamaru's house, looking at the Sunagakure ninjas who fell down and twitched in pain everywhere, and the dark hole in the middle of those people, Nara Shikaka's mouth twitched. Kamiri Tsukika, I never thought that at such a young age. She has already mastered the Flying Thunder God technique and the lightning-style ninjutsu just now. Is it self-created? Or are they all from the Hokage's parish? He thought, always feeling that the sky of Konoha might change. There are also different other places. Kamisato Tsukika's figure seems to appear in every corner of existence. As long as there are Sunagakure ninjas and Otogakure ninjas, Kamisato Tsukika will appear and disappear after killing those ninjas. This shocked the hearts of the ninjas guarding the residential area of Konoha, and most of them were excited after being shocked. Flying Thunder God technique, shining again in Yijichen. They couldn't help but discuss and inquire about Kamisato Tsukika. However, some people were happy, while others were naturally unhappy. Konoha route. In the dim underground world, Shimura Dan stood on a huge pipe, closing his eyes to rest. Below him were the root members who had assembled and were ready to act at any time. Leader, this is the latest information. At a certain moment, a root member quickly jumped over, landed beside Shimura Dan's, knelt on one knee, and presented Shimura Dan's with both hands. Shimura Dan's took it and looked at it carefully. Soon his eyes lit up, as if he saw some good news, but he concealed it. But soon, Shimura Dan's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and his brows frowned slightly. After reading it, he put the paper down, and then said to the people below, "The Hokage died in battle." As soon as these words came out, all the root members subconsciously raised their heads and looked at Shimura Dans with unbelievable eyes. The third Hokage is dead. How is this possible? They couldn't believe it, but they immediately accepted this heavy fact, because Lord Danzo would not lie to them. Huro, Master Chief, are we not going yet? To avenge Lord Third Hokage. Someone spoke anxiously. The death of the third Hokage made him angry. However, he was frightened by Shimura Danza's eyes and broke out in a cold sweat just after he finished speaking. It's not time for us to take action yet. Remember, we are the root of Konoha and the deepest power of Konoha. We can't be exposed easily. Unless Konoha's life and death is at stake, we will take the initiative to appear in people's eyes. Shimura Dan spoke, although he said so, but there were other reasons why he didn't give the order. For example, he didn't tell everyone another piece of news just now. Konoha Jinin Kamisato Tsukika is using the Flying Thunder God technique to calm the situation. The ninjas of Sunagakure and Wanan Village are now in a stage of being encircled and suppressed, and this incident is about to end. After asking the root members to continue to stand by, Shimura Dans stopped talking. He began to think about Kamisato Tsukika, Flying Thunder God technique. Shimura Dans did not expect that more than 10 years later, this technique would appear in Konoha again, and it appeared on a genin about whom he had only a little information, thinking of Kamisato Tsukika's experience. When he became Umbu, Shimura Dans had a bad feeling. Originally, this was nothing. It was normal for Sarutobi Hiruzen to train some young and outstanding ninjas to join Umbu, such as Yuzuki Yugao. Before this, Shimura Dans thought Kamisato Tsukika was also such a person. However, it seems that it is completely different now. Kamisato Tsukika may be very unusual for Sarutobi Hiruzen. Otherwise, he would not have given the Flying Thunder God technique to Kamisato Tsukika. The darkness in his heart made Shimura Dans start to imagine Kamisato Tsukika becoming a 5.6 genius. Why Sarutobi Hiruzen let Kamisato Tsukika enter Umbu right after graduation? Why Sarutobi Hiruzen gave Kamisato Tsukika the Flying Thunder God technique, etc. When Shimura Dans finished imagining, his face was gloomy and full of murderous intent. Sarutobi, would you rather let a teenager become Hokage than fulfill my wish? In his heart, he couldn't help but curse Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Shimura Dans was so angry that his body trembled. But soon he felt secretly happy again. Humph! What's the use of you, Sarutobi Hiruzen, calculating everything? If you were still alive, then maybe I would still be calculated by you. But since you are dead, how can I be defeated by a teenager? Kamiri Tsukika? You, Sarutobi Hiruzen, still want to train him to be the second Namake's Minato? Then I will let Kamisato Tsukika become a root. Shimura Dans thought to himself, and he had already started to think about the conspiracy against Kamisato Tsukika. Chapter 85 Kill the Snake. When Kamisato Uehua stopped killing, the ninjas who invaded the residential area of Konoha Village were almost slaughtered. Standing among several bodies, Kamisato Uehua calmed down. The third Hokage died after all. No matter how much he killed, he could not revive the third Hokage. Are you okay? A worried voice sounded from behind. Kamisato Uehua turned her head and looked at Yuhi Kurenai, who was looking at her with concern, and forced a smile. I didn't think that the third generation master would die. Kamisato Uehua said what every Konoha shinobi would say, but the real meaning of his words was actually known only to him. No one expected this. However, we are ninjas, and dying in battle is the most normal and glorious fate of ninjas. The third generation master died in battle, protecting the village. Yuhi Kurenai comforted her. She didn't know why she was crazy. She kept looking for Kamisato Uehua's figure, and finally came to enlighten Kamisato Uehua alone. She was so afraid to meet Kamisato Uehua alone. Kamisato Uehua was silent, then sighed. The fate of a ninja may be to die in battle, but the fate of the people I care about should not be this. This kind of thing will never happen again. I will never let you, the people I care about, die in front of me again. Kamisato Uehua said firmly, this is not acting, but his true thoughts at the moment. Originally, Kamisato Uehua thought that he had a thorough understanding of the world, and he would not care about anyone. He only pursued the supreme advancement and eternal power. But the death of Sarutobi Hiruzen touched Kamisato Tsukika deeply. Because there were many conspiracy theories against the third generation in the previous life, everyone had no good impression of this old man, since I don't know when. Kamisato Tsukika didn't know whether those conspiracies were true, and he hadn't investigated it yet. But Kamisato Tsukika knew that the third Hokage was really good to him, and really treated him as his successor and cultivated him, giving him everything he could. So Kamisato Tsukika didn't want the third Hokage to die in this Konoha collapse plan. Zito, it turns out that he would be so angry about the death of the third Hokage and would also feel regretful. It turns out that things would be beyond his control and he would also be powerless. This feeling is too bad for Kamisato Tsukika. So Kamisato Tsukika looked at Yuhi Kurenai seriously and said these words. He directly and clearly told Yuhi Kurenai that he would not let Yuhi Kurenai die in front of him, and told Yuhi Kurenai that she was someone he cared about. Looking at Kamisato Tsukika's firm expression and eyes, Yuhi Kurenai's heart was in chaos. Let's go. Hong Sr., let's go back first. There's still many things to deal with. Moreover, the matter of Shimura dance also needs to be clarified. Without waiting for Yuhi Kurenai to say anything, Kamisato Tsukika spoke, came to Yuhi Kurenai, grabbed Yuhi Kurenai's hand, and then used Flying Thunder God to leave. When the two appeared again, they had already arrived at the stadium. This place has been completely controlled by the Konoha shinobi, and many ninjas are here. After Kamisato Tsukika appeared with Yuhi Kurenai quickly let go of Kamisato Tsukika's hand. The two came to the place where the third generation died. At this time, this place has been surrounded by Umboom members, and next to the body of the third generation, Jiraiya, Hatake Kakashi, Might Guy, and others were silent there. I'm sorry, I didn't protect the third generation. Kamisato Tsukika came to Jiraiya and others and apologized. Her tone was a little hoarse. I already understand the situation. It's none of your business. And if it weren't for you, the situation would only be worse. Jiraiya patted Kamisato Tsukika on the shoulder and said, he didn't expect that the third Hokage would die in this incident. He also hated himself a little. Why didn't he feel it earlier? But it's meaningless to say anything now. First of all, the situation in Konoha must be stabilized, and it is also necessary to prevent other ninja villages from taking advantage of the death of the third generation and the changes in Konoha to take advantage of the fire. However, this situation should be very small because Konoha lost a third generation member but gained a Flying Thunder God. Looking at the guilty boy in front of him, Jiraiya suddenly understood why the third generation member died in battle. With a future that can be entrusted, using his own death to solve his past mistakes, this should be a kind of relief. Master Jiraiya, I wonder if you have heard about Shimura dance. Kamisato Tsukika spoke again, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. Shimura dance, that old guy, is his real target in this Konoha collapse plan. If the third Hokage hadn't had an accident, he should have cooperated with Orochimaru to kill that old guy. Well, however, we can't act rashly. After all, it's just Orochimaru's one-sided statement. Jiraiya naturally heard what Orochimaru said before, but he made the same choice as Sarutobi Asuma. Kamisato Tsukika was not surprised by this, and just nodded. He didn't expect Jiraiya to lead everyone to confront Shimura dance face-to-face. He just brought up the matter deliberately to deepen everyone's impression of Shimura dance. Let's go and see Orochimaru first, Jiraiya said. He had something to ask Orochimaru in person. Jiraiya Sr., I'll go to support Naruto first. Hatake Kakashi suddenly said. He was shocked by the death of the third Hokage when he came back just now, and then Kamisato Tsukika appeared, and now he finally remembered that he had issued an A-level mission to Naruto, Haruno Sakura, and Shikamaru. Although Hatake Kakashi believed that Naruto and his friends would definitely be able to complete it well, just in case, it would be better to go and support them quickly. Jiraiya nodded, and Hatake Kakashi left directly. He didn't have to worry about not being able to find Naruto and his friends. After all, his ninja dog had been following Naruto and his friends, so it was easy to find Naruto and his friends. After Hitaki Kakashi left, Jiraiya and his friends also set off for Konoha prison. However, when they arrived at the prison, they saw Sarutobi Asuma with an ugly face. Orochimaru was rescued by the genin named Yakushi Kabuto. He spoke with bloodshot eyes and was furious but unable to vent. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. They had never thought that Orochimaru could be rescued. Kamisato Yuehua's expression changed. She thought it was Yakushi Kabuto. 0134072230 Filu 144370080. Just now, when Sarutobi Asuma said that Orochimaru was rescued, the first person Kamisato Yuehua thought of was Yakushi Kabuto. After all, he had not seen Yakushi Kabuto since he launched the first illusion and started the Konoha collapse plan. He had thought that Yakushi Kabuto should have been sent by Orochimaru to solve the Shimura Dan's issue. Now it seems that this is probably true. However, Yakushi Kabuto had not waited for Orochimaru and Kamisato Tsukika to appear, but he received the news that Orochimaru was captured, so he tried to rescue Orochimaru. "I'll go after him." Kamisato Tsukika said that if Yakushi Kabuto could not rescue Orochimaru today, it would be useless for anyone to come, and Orochimaru must die. After he finished speaking to everyone, he used the Flying Thunder God technique to leave. This made it impossible for others to stop him. Tsukika is too anxious. If he goes alone, what if something goes wrong? Mike said helplessly. In fact, what he wanted to say was that Kamisato Tsukika should take him with her. "Don't worry, that guy is very powerful. Orochimaru's hands have been crippled by the third generation, so they can't threaten that guy," Jiraiya said. In his opinion, Kamisato Yuehua was so anxious because of the death of the third generation, which was understandable. On the other hand, Kamisato Yuehua directly activated soul perception after leaving Jiraiya and others. Orochimaru's soul hands were eaten by Shinigami, but the Soul Yuzan curse seal that Kamisato Yuehua engraved on Orochimaru's soul was not eliminated, and Kamisato Yuehua's perception distance of the Soul Yuzan curse seal was 50 kilometers. So Kamisato Yuehua sensed Orochimaru's position as soon as she sensed it. Without hesitation, Kamisato Yuehua quickly approached Orochimaru's position. At the same time, he was thinking in his mind, after killing Orochimaru, how to use everything in Orochimaru's hands. Yakushi Kabuto, thinking of this person, Kamisato Yuehua's intuition told him that this person was the key person for him to achieve his goal. On the other hand, at this time, he was also carrying Orochimaru 84 move quickly. He was indeed sent by Orochimaru to infiltrate the route, as Kamisato Tsukika thought, ready to cooperate with Orochimaru and Kamisato Tsukika to solve Shimura Dan's. However, before he could act according to the plan, an accident happened and Orochimaru was captured. After receiving this news, Yakushi Kabuto disguised himself as Umbu and released the Sound 4 ninjas first. When the Sound 4 ninjas attracted the attention of others, he deceived Sarutobi Asuma and rescued Orochimaru. "Lord Orochimaru, let's continue to move forward. We can start from..." Yakushi Kabuto moved quickly while speaking to Orochimaru in front of him. However, before he finished speaking, Orochimaru suddenly stopped. "No need, Kabuto." Feeling the threat to his life getting stronger and stronger, Orochimaru had realized that Kamisato Tsukika was chasing him. "Kamisato Tsukika will be here soon. He won't let me return to the land of fields alive." Orochimaru spoke calmly. He was already prepared to die anyway. Besides, this death might not be a bad thing for him, just to try whether he could get rid of Kamisato Tsukika's control over him. Letty, Yakushi Kabuto didn't know what to say for a moment. If it was Kamisato Tsukika, he would have no choice. After all, Kamisato Tsukika was too strong. Even the uninjured Orochimaru was not his opponent. Not to mention Orochimaru, who had his hands broken now. As for himself, he knew his own weight very well, and he would be killed instantly if he fought with Kamisato Tsukika. "Kabuto, there's a very important thing in the lamp of the 6th experimental table in the south base." Orochimaru suddenly spoke, which surprised Yakushi Kabuto, but he did not ask what it was, because since Orochimaru did not say it directly, he would know it when he saw it himself. Boom! Kamisato Tsukika, who opened the sixth gate, fell from the sky and landed heavily on the ground with a roar. The dust cleared, and looking at Orochimaru and Yakushi Kabuto in front of him, Kamisato Tsukika said, Orochimaru, you know what I am here for. Chapter 86 Orochimaru. D. Hearing Kamisato Tsukika's words, Orochimaru's face remained unchanged. Tsukika-kun, you should know that I don't want that kind of thing to happen. That old guy Sarutobi. When Orochimaru said this, his eyes suddenly widened and he showed a look of pain. Cold sweat overflowed from his head, and the severe pain made Orochimaru's tortured body tremble. This is because Kamisato Tsukika detonated a soul Yuzan curse seal in Orochimaru's soul. Since it has been decided that Orochimaru will die, there is no point in keeping this curse seal. Orochimaru-sama. Yakushi Kabuto quickly supported Orochimaru. Looking at Orochimaru's painful face, he suddenly understood why Orochimaru suddenly chose to cooperate with Kamisato Tsukika before. This is not choosing to cooperate with Kamisato Tsukika. It is simply being threatened and having to cooperate with Kamisato Tsukika. It's really a pity. I really didn't expect the third generation to die. You know, the third generation leader has done me a favor. Since he died in your hands, there is nothing you can do. You can only be buried with him. Kamisato Tsukika looked at Orochimaru and said that he was going to kill Orochimaru completely. I didn't expect that someone like you would make such a decision for such a reason. It's incredible. But there is one thing I can't figure out. Since you don't want the third generation leader to die, can't you stop me from the beginning? Why wait until everything happens before pretending here? Orochimaru mocked Kamisato Tsukika. Since the relationship has been torn apart, there is nothing to say. In fact, you are responsible for the death of the third generation leader. Puff. Before Orochimaru finished speaking, Kamisato Tsukika detonated the second soul Yuzan curse in his mind, causing Orochimaru to spit out a mouthful of blood and curl up on the ground, groaning in pain. This made Yakushi Kabuto sweat coldly, and his heart was horrified and shocked. He knew what kind of person Orochimaru was. Even if he put his hands in the fire and scraped off pieces of flesh from his body, he would not groan, his face would not change, and he would even show a confident and relaxed smile. However, now, Orochimaru was lying on the ground groaning and struggling in pain. This made Yakushi Kabuto unable to imagine how terrible the pain Orochimaru was experiencing at this time. You talk too much. Kamiri Tsukika looked at Orochimaru on the ground and spoke coldly. He could feel that Orochimaru was deliberately provoking him. Kamiri Tsukika could easily guess the purpose of Orochimaru's doing this, knowing Orochimaru's real trump card. It was nothing more than to completely eliminate the curse seal he had carved on Orochimaru's soul. Although the curse seal on Orochimaru's soul should be automatically eliminated after his reincarnation, he did this just in case. Anyway, it's better to feel pain now than to continue to be controlled by Kamisato Tsukika if the curse seal is not eliminated after reincarnation. Then, it's time to send you on your way. Kamiri Tsukika spoke again, taking out a kunai and touching the picture on the scroll with her hand. After the white smoke, a knife appeared. I didn't expect that I would die in your hands in the end. Orochimaru stopped groaning in pain, stood up from the ground tremblingly, and spoke. His eyes were gloomy, and his vertical pupils looked at Kamisato Tsukika, his eyes full of unwillingness. At this moment, Orochimaru was still acting. I didn't expect that I would take your life so soon. I was thinking of making good use of you. Kamisato Tsukika also spoke with regret, which made Orochimaru feel relieved. Since Kamisato Tsukika said so, Yakushi Kabuto's life was saved. And if Yakushi Kabuto didn't die, he would reappear in the world in a short time. Of course, it doesn't matter if Yakushi Kabuto is dead. He still has a backup plan, and he can always find a way to appear again. I can only say that you made the wrong choice. Kamisato Tsukika finally spoke to Orochimaru, and without hesitation, she raised her hand and slashed. Puff! Blood spurted out from his neck, and Orochimaru's head flew up and down in the sky, hitting the ground. His eyes were still open, and his pupils were like snakes. Unfortunately, this was a dead snake. At this moment, the sky seemed to have changed. Jiraiya, who was far away in Konoha, felt as if he had lost something. He looked up at the sky in the distance and remained silent. Mitarashi Anko, who was directing his subordinates to carry the dead bodies, only felt the curse seal behind her neck warm up, and a certain feeling that had been suppressed for a long time suddenly disappeared without a trace, making her feel melancholy. 0134072301443702230. In a casino somewhere in the ninja world, a woman with a delicate face stared at the cards in her hand in a daze, without any joy of winning money at all. At this moment, many people who had close ties with Orochimaru felt something at this moment. Turd! Looking at the body of Orochimaru separated on the ground, Yakushi Kabuto felt that it was so illusory and unreal. Orochimaru was beheaded by Kamisato Tsukika in front of him and died. This had a great impact on Yakushi Kabuto's mind. Even with his psychological quality, even if he had been mentally prepared just now, he still felt a little confused when he really saw Orochimaru's death. But soon, Yakushi Kabuto came back to his senses, because Kamisato Tsukika had already looked at him. This made Yakushi Kabuto sweat coldly and his body tense. But he didn't know what to do or what to do. Resist? Escape? Yakushi Kabuto didn't think that he could resist someone who could only surrender to Orochimaru. Moreover, thinking of the time when he was killed like a piece of trash, Yakushi Kabuto didn't have the courage to resist. Even though his strength was at the level of Chunin, even at the level of elite Chunin, he would die in front of Kamisato Tsukika. Kamisato Tsukika looked at the nervous and helpless Yakushi Kabuto, and Kamisato Tsukika seemed to see the shadow of Orochimaru in Yakushi Kabuto. At this moment, a certain consciousness of a certain snake or a fragment of the soul might be inside Yakushi Kabuto's body. After all, in the original work, Orochimaru said something after his resurrection. I saw everything in Kabuto's body. Of course, Orochimaru did not specify when he started to see everything. It may be that he started after his death, but it may also be that Yakushi Kabuto started to implant Orochi cells into him. But none of this is important. Kamisato Tsukika just said to Yakushi Kabuto meaningfully, Orochimaru must have told you something before he died. As soon as these words came out, Yakushi Kabuto's hair stood up, and he felt a chill in his heart. Kamisato Tsukika knew about it. He couldn't help but speak in his heart. Chapter 87 Yakushi Kabuto was shocked by Kamisato Tsukika's words, and then his mind started to think wildly. He didn't know whether Kamisato Tsukika was testing him or really knew something. If it was just testing him, then there would be no problem if she chose to conceal it. But if this was not a test, and Kamisato Tsukika really knew something, then if he chose to conceal it, would he die here too? At this moment, Yakushi Kabuto knew that he had come to the brink of life and death, and he might die here at any time and be buried with Orochimaru. So, Yakushi Kabuto made a decision in his heart immediately. Yes, Orochimaru told me something before you came. Yakushi Kabuto spoke and decided to tell Kamisato Tsukika what Orochimaru said to him. Although he admired Orochimaru very much, he was also impressed by Orochimaru's personal charm and could do a lot for Orochimaru. But Orochimaru was already dead. He can't be buried with Orochimaru, right? I believe that Lord Orochimaru can understand this. After all, only in this way can he survive. Orochimaru said, "There's a very important thing in the lamp of the 6th experimental table in the southern base." Yakushi Kabuto decisively betrayed the dead Orochimaru without hiding anything. Kamiri Tsukika heard this, and the corners of her mouth slightly raised. Backhand, as expected of senior Orochimaru. How could he give up the hope that should be left there for him to live again so easily? Kamiri Tsukika opened her mouth, but she didn't think so in her heart. With Orochimaru's intelligence and mind, Kamisato Tsukika didn't believe that Orochimaru would not guess that Yakushi Kabuto would eventually betray him. The things he left for Yakushi Kabuto were probably left for Kamisato Tsukika. As for the purpose, it might be to make Kamisato Tsukika believe that Orochimaru was completely dealt with, or there might be other meanings. But don't worry, you will know when you see it in person. Yakushi Kabuto was silent on the side, not daring to speak. Now he can only wait for Kamisato Tsukika's decision. Whether he lives or dies is no longer up to him. Of course, if Kamisato Tsukika really wants to kill him, then Yakushi Kabuto will definitely choose to resist. Whether the strength gap can successfully resist is one thing, and trying to fight for a glimmer of life is another. As long as there is no real death, we must try our best to fight for the chance to live. Senior Kabuto, don't be nervous. Isn't it just a dead snake? It's no big deal. I'm not a bloodthirsty person. Don't worry, you won't die. Kamisato Uehua spoke to Yakushi Kabuto, but Yakushi Kabuto just relaxed his body and didn't dare to relax at all. Well, let me tell you a story to relax you. Kamisato Uehua's mouth slightly raised, thinking of Yakushi Kabuto's life and experience in the original book. I saw this story when I was wandering around the route from a file sealed by Shimura Dans. The story starts from the Third Ninja World War. Before the outbreak of the Third Ninja World War, frictions between major villages had already begun. Although no large-scale battles broke out, local frictions continued. Many people died in those small-scale frictions and battles. In this environment, many war orphans were born, and there was such a boy who was adopted by an orphanage because he forgot his name and life experience. Kamiri Tsukika began to tell the story of Yakushi Kabuto. Speaking of it, Yakushi Kabuto was also quite miserable. He had a miserable life and was abandoned on the battlefield. He was a war orphan. It was not easy to meet Yakushi Nono, who was really good to him. But because of his talent, he was targeted by Shimura Dans and became Danzo's bargaining chip to threaten Yakushi Nono. And Yakushi Kabuto himself didn't know all this. He sacrificed himself to join the route for the orphanage, became a spy, and walked on the edge of death for Shimura Dans many times. But because of Shimura Dans, he and Yakushi Nono fought to the death and accidentally killed the person he cared about the most. That would be fine, but the worst thing for Yakushi Kabuto was that Shimura Dans kept changing his growing photos, causing him to become his own substitute. Daf and Yakushi Nono didn't know at all that Yakushi Kabuto was the real Yakushi Kabuto. This was a big blow to Yakushi Kabuto and made Yakushi Kabuto lose the meaning of living. As for later, it was Orochimaru who invited Yakushi Kabuto to join him. After listening to Kamisato Tsukika's story, Yakushi Kabuto was silent. He couldn't help but think of Yakushi Nono in his mind, and the pain that he could not let go of in his life. So, what does Tsukika-kun want to express? Yakushi Kabuto spoke, but his voice was a little hoarse. No, I don't want to express anything. I just think some people really deserve to die. For example, Shimura Dans. Kamiri Tsukika looked at Yakushi Kabuto and continued. I just said that I won't kill you. But I guess you also know that I won't kill you under certain conditions. Yakushi Kabuto calmed down after hearing this and returned to his previous state, looking at Kamisato Tsukika, waiting for Kamisato Tsukika to continue speaking. If it weren't for the accident of the third generation, I wouldn't have gotten rid of Orochimaru so quickly. After all, he has a lot of things in his hands, and they're also very good. But everything happened, and Orochimaru's death is an established fact. I killed Orochimaru, so the things he holds are my spoils and become my things. But I don't have extra time to manage these things. I'm a person who focuses on results rather than processes. What I need is the value that Orochimaru and these things create for me, but to let these things have value. So, I need someone to help me manage these things and take over everything of Orochimaru. Senior Yakushi Kabuto, you're the person I choose. Kamiri Tsukika looked at Yakushi Kabuto and spoke. This was within Yakushi Kabuto's expectations and also beyond his expectations. I understand, but I'm afraid I can't just take over those things. After all, the person everyone surrenders to is Lord Orochimaru, not me. Yakushi Kabuto spoke. Although Kamisato Tsukika asked him to take over everything of Orochimaru, Yakushi Kabuto didn't feel excited at all. As he said, everything about Orochimaru is built on Orochimaru, and it can't be taken over by someone else. I just said that I only care about the result, not the process. How you take over is your business. I just want a tool for my use. But I'm not the kind of person who forces you to do things. I will give you some support and help you get rid of those people you can't get rid of. Of course, although I said I choose you, you have to pass my test first. What you have to do now is to collect evidence that will allow me to get rid of Shimura Dans legitimately. Kamisato Tsukika spoke. Chapter 88, carrying Orochimaru's head back to the village, Yakushi Kabuto was relieved to hear that Kamisato Tsukika would give him some support. If he was alone, he would definitely not be able to accept what Orochimaru left behind. Then, it's time to carve a cursed seal on you. However, Kamisato Tsukika's words made Yakushi Kabuto shudder again. You are a smart person. I believe you will not betray me, and I also believe you can understand me. Kamisato Tsukika spoke, making Yakushi Kabuto sweat coldly. He remembered the miserable state of Orochimaru just now. There is no doubt that it must be caused by the cursed seal Kamisato Tsukika gave Orochimaru. Just bear with it. It will be over soon. Kamisato Tsukika looked into Yakushi Kabuto's eyes and spoke, and then directly used the mythological technique Soul Clash. In just a moment, he understood the pain that Orochimaru had just experienced. Even if it was just a soul collision and not a soul use-on, it was a pain that ordinary people could not endure when it came to the soul. After the soul collision with Yakushi Kabuto, Kamisato Yuehua's soul directly invaded Yakushi Kabuto's soul and quickly carved 3 soul use-on curse seals in Yakushi Kabuto's soul. Looking at Yakushi Kabuto, who was panting with his hands on the ground, Kamisato Yuehua said, I won't let you try the specific power of the curse seal. I just want to say that it is more than 10 times the pain you are feeling now. Besides, you must have seen the look of Orochimaru just now. Even a person like him can't bear the pain. I don't think you want to try it. As she said, Kamisato Yuehua took out a kunai and threw it in front of Yakushi Kabuto. There is the Flying Thunder God spell I left on this kunai. Wear it well and don't lower it. In addition, come to Konoha to find me within a month and bring the things you have collected. Kamisato Yuehua said, and came to Orochimaru's head and lifted Orochimaru's head. I'll give you Orochimaru's body. It should be something of great research value. So, I look forward to our next meeting, Senior Yakushi Kabuto. After saying that, Kamisato Tsukika used the Flying Thunder God technique to leave. After Kamisato Tsukika left, Yakushi Kabuto stood up tremblingly, looking at the headless body beside him, and smiled with relief. I almost died, Master Orochimaru. Yakushi Kabuto muttered to himself, sighing in his heart. Then, he collected Orochimaru's body and left directly. Konoha. When Kamisato Tsukika came back again, the bodies of the ninjas in the village had been collected almost, and the Konoha shinobi were carefully checking to prevent any enemies from hiding in the village. When some ninjas saw Kamisato Tsukika carrying Orochimaru's head and moving towards the Hokage building, they all widened their eyes. That's Orochimaru's head. Am I seeing right? Orochimaru is dead. Great. Orochimaru is finally killed. The 3rd generation master was killed by this guy. Now we have finally avenged the 3rd generation master. Kamiri Tsukika is awesome. Well done. People were excited. They were all shocked when they heard the news of the 3rd generation master's death. When they heard that Orochimaru, who killed the 3rd Hokage, was rescued, every Konoha shinobi was angry and wanted to hunt down Orochimaru himself. Now, seeing Kamisato Tsukika returning with Orochimaru's head, how could they not be excited? Speaking of which, this incident was resolved so quickly thanks to Kamisato Tsukika. He killed many enemies and Orochimaru by himself. Yeah, it's hard to imagine Kamisato Tsukika is only 13 years old. Well, he is a real genius. He reminds me of the 4th generation master. Yes, when I saw him suddenly appear beside me and kill those Sunagakure bastards with Flying Thunder God technique, It was like seeing the fourth-generation master. That's the Flying Thunder God technique. I didn't expect that after the second-generation master and the fourth-generation master, there would be another ninja who could use this technique in the village. No matter what, he is our Konoha's Kamisato Tsukika. In addition to being excited, the Konoha shinobi couldn't help but discuss Kamisato Tsukika. Almost everyone was amazed at Kamisato Tsukika's age and strength, and amazed at Kamisato Tsukika's Flying Thunder God. Downstairs of the Hokage, there are already many ninjas gathered here. Jiraiya, Hatake Kakashi who has returned, Might Guy, Sarutobi Asuma, Yuhi Kurenai Narashikaku, Yamanaka Hai, Akamichi Choza, Hyuga Hayashi and Mitokado Hamura, Yuditane Kohuru, and Shimura Dance. Konoha's dedicated genin, the heads of the major families, and some powerful genin all gathered here. And the corpse of the third-generation target was also here, covered by a layer of white cloth. At a certain moment, when Kamisato Tsukika arrived, everyone looked at him and the head of Orochimaru in Kamisato Tsukika's hand. This looking at the head of Orochimaru in Kamisato Tsukika's hand, someone took a breath. Although they were here, they also wanted to wait for Kamisato Tsukika to return. But many people were still worried about Kamisato Tsukika going to chase Orochimaru alone. Module: the spirit of the third-generation master in heaven can be released. Someone spoke softly. His eyes were already wet. Orochimaru, this guy, died welled up. Someone couldn't help but speak excitedly. His eyes were red. The culprit of this incident is Dr. Zhongfu. It's a pity that I couldn't kill him myself. If it weren't for this guy, the third-generation master wouldn't have died. Many people spoke excitedly. Their eyes moved with Kamisato Uehua. And Kamisato Uehua ignored everyone's gaze. He just came to the third-generation master's body and put Orochimaru's head down. Third-generation master, please rest in peace. Kamiri Tsukika spoke, then silently retreated to Yuhi Kurenai's side. Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru's head with a complicated expression. When Kamisato Tsukika went to hunt Orochimaru, he had a premonition in his heart, and the sudden feeling of loss before made Jiraiya mentally prepared. But the moment he saw Orochimaru's head, he still couldn't calm down, and his mood was deep. Memories of the past came to his mind, and Jiraiya remembered too much. From childhood to the last time they met. When they met again, they were already separated by yin and yang. And it was not only Orochimaru, but also the third generation. Jiraiya suddenly felt powerless. There were not many people he cared about in his life, and even fewer were still alive. However, today he lost two of them. This feeling is really bitter. Jiraiya looked up at the sky and didn't let the tears in his eyes flow out. Men don't shed tears easily, but they haven't been sad for a long time. Chapter 89 War. In one day, two people who occupied a very important position in Jiraiya's heart, the third generation and Orochimaru, died. And the third generation died at the hands of Orochimaru. This hit Jiraiya hard. He even felt a lot emptier in his heart. But no matter what, he still had to cheer up. Everyone, although Orochimaru has been killed, it is not the time to relax. No one knows whether there will be other enemies besides Sunagakure and Otogakure. So, please check again in detail to ensure the safety of the village. Jiraiya spoke to everyone. The ninjas present nodded and said yes, then left quickly to join the investigation. Kamisato Tsukika also left, but he did not join the investigation, but went to the Hokage Rock. Seeing this, Yuhi Kurenai also followed 263 Kamisato Tsukika and left. After the ordinary ninjas left, the Hokage was left downstairs with the main advisor, as well as the Genin class leader Narashikaku and Sarutobi Asuma, the son of Sarutobi Hiruzen. Such a big thing happened in Konoha. It is impossible to hide it. I believe that the whole ninja world will soon know what happened today. Jiraiya continued to speak, and what he was going to say next was something that involved the safety of the entire Konoha. After all, what happened this time really had a great impact on Konoha. If it was not handled carefully, it might even trigger a new ninja world war. That's true. The entire ninja world has been peaceful for too long. After so much development, the trauma left by the last Ninja World War has long been recovered. Some people may not be able to hold back. Udatane Koharu agreed. As a consultant of Konoha, she naturally has some skills. The accidental death of the third-generation leader has indeed had a great impact on Konoha. Midokado Hamura also echoed, looking solemn. If they dare to come, let them know that Konoha is not only the third generation. Shimura Dans snorted coldly. He was a warmonger and had already regarded Konoha as his own. War was just what he wanted in his heart. It's just a war. If they dare to fight, then fight them. I think we should discuss something more important. Shimura Dan said, looking at several people, and finally looking at the corpse of the third-generation leader, and said, we should now choose the fifth Hokage. As soon as these words came out, Jiraiya's face turned cold. The third-generation leader had just died, and his body was still warm, but Shimura Dans couldn't wait to talk about the fifth Hokage, which made Jiraiya very unhappy. Don't think he didn't know what Shimura Dans was thinking. This old guy coveted the position of Hokage for a long time. Sarutobi Asuma was also unhappy. He always remembered what Orochimaru said before. Although he did not question Shimura Dans in front of everyone because there was no evidence and Konoha needed stability. But the more Sarutobi Asuma thought about it, the more he felt that Shimura Dans had a problem, a very serious problem. The reason was very simple. How did the ninjas from Otoge-kure and Tsunade-kure penetrate into the heart of the Land of Fire so easily and sneak into the vicinity of Konoha directly? This was incredible. If sneaking into Konoha was so easy, Konoha would have disappeared from the ninja world in the previous few ninja wars. So is there a possibility that there is an insider? Someone opened the door for the enemy and provided detailed routes, which made it so easy for those people to appear around Konoha. And among those who have this ability in Konoha, Shimura Dans is definitely one of them. The fifth Hokage's matter will be discussed after this matter is over and the third generation is buried. Jiraiya spoke, not in a negotiating tone, but in a final statement. It should be so. Nara Shikaku agreed. Yet Koharu and Midokado Hamura also nodded. They knew what Shimura Dans was thinking, but they didn't want to support Shimura Dans to become Hokage, because Shimura Dans was too extreme. If they let Shimura Dans be Hokage, they were afraid that Shimura Dans would lead Konoha into the quagmire of war. Compared to letting Shimura Dans be the fifth Hokage, wouldn't it be better for them to let Jiraiya be the fifth Hokage? Seeing that several important figures refused to discuss the fifth Hokage, Shimura Dan snorted coldly and then remained silent. Shikaku, what do you think of the war that may happen next? Jiraiya spoke to Nara Shikaku again. During the Third Shinobi World War, Nara Shikaku was his military advisor, and he trusted Nara Shikaku's wisdom. It should be difficult to fight. Nara Shikaku spoke. He was not worried about a new ninja world war. As soon as he said this, several people looked at him. Although the third-generation master died in this incident, Konoha did not suffer any major losses in this incident, and our overall strength was not affected. Moreover, in this incident, not only did Master Jiraiya appear in Konoha and inject a dose of heart to Konoha, we also have Kamisato Yoka, a super genius who knows Flying Thunder God technique, who turned out to be born. I think everyone knows the combat power he has shown, and being able to kill Orochimaru has proved everything. If other ninja villages want to take the opportunity to attack Konoha, they may need to think carefully. Nara Shikaku said, paused for a while, and then continued. Of course, another very important point is that the current Tsukikage, Movie, and Mizukage are not the kind of people who are willing to start a war easily. If they were that kind of people, they would not have endured it when the Uchiha clan was destroyed. After all, Konoha at that time seemed to be the weakest. Nara Shikaku then analyzed that it was indeed the most dangerous time for Konoha, and the destruction of the Uchiha clan had a significant impact on Konoha's overall strength. But at that time, other ninja villages all endured it. As for Tsunade-kure, the fourth Kazekage who was supposed to attend the Chunin selection exam today has become Orochimaru, and the fourth Kazekage has not appeared until now. I'm afraid that the fourth Kazekage has a problem. Everyone couldn't help but nod when they heard it. After Nara Shikaku's analysis, many things became clear. So, I suggest that the border defense forces continue to be stationed and now solve the problems of Sunagakure and Odo village. Finally, Narashikaku gave a suggestion. Okay, let's do it this way. When several people were discussing the safety of Konoha Hokage Yin, the head sculpture of the third Hokage, Kamiri Tsukika sat here, looking at Kunda below. Yuhi Kurenai stood behind him, without saying a word. Chapter 90, completely famous. Hokage Rock, on the head sculpture of the third Hokage. Kamisato Uehua did not participate in the subsequent investigation work. Those things can be left to ordinary ninjas. He wanted to be quiet. Yuhi Kurenai did not go to investigate either. She just felt that Kamisato Uehua might need someone to accompany her now. After all, in Yuhi Kurenai's eyes, no matter how talented Kamisato Uehua was, he was still just a boy who was about to turn 13. Suddenly encountering such a thing as the death of an important person, his heart would definitely be affected. So she was here to accompany Kamisato Uehua. Kamisato Uehua understood Yuhi Kurenai's concerns, and he was a little amused. To be honest, the death of the third Hokage did affect him, but not as much as Yuhi Kurenai thought. The reason why Kamisato Uehua came here was because there was really no need to participate in the investigation work. It would be better to be lazy here and avoid the limelight. After all, in Konoha now, I am afraid that his name is being discussed crazily by people. Compared to being discussed in person or hearing others discussing him, Kamisato Uehua chose to sit quietly for a while. Anyway, it feels good to have someone to accompany him. In the village, just as Kamisato Uehua thought, he has become the subject of discussion of almost all Konoha shinobi. After all, Kamisato Uehua's performance in this Konoha collapse plan is too dazzling. Starting from the stadium, Kamisato Uehua almost killed the enemies and cleaned up the venue alone. Then it was the outskirts of the village, his own residential area. Kamisato Uehua's figure can be seen everywhere, and his superb flying thunder god technique is unforgettable. And his unprinted lightning style thunder killing gun. It can be said that in this incident, anyone who has seen Kamisato Uehua take action will never forget the influence of Kamisato Uehua in their minds. Just this factor alone is enough to make him a topic of conversation. Not to mention, Kamisato Uehua is still a boy of more than 12 years old, a genin who participated in this Chunin selection exam. These information combined are simply legendary and miraculous. Let Kamisato Uehua be stained with legendary color. It's incredible. I didn't expect that he graduated from the ninja school just a few months ago. Yes, less than 13 years old. When I was this age, I didn't even qualify to participate in the Chunin exam. I had become a Chunin at this age, but if I were to fight against a special Chunin, I would definitely be killed easily, let alone a Chunin and an elite Chunin. I really don't know how Kamisato Uehua practiced. Compared with him, I feel like I have lived like a dog. Who isn't? You know, he killed Orochimaru too. People were talking about Kamisato Uehua's strength and age, and they were full of amazement and envy. This is the ninja world, and everyone admires her. Although Kamisato Uehua is young, he is now an absolute strongman. Speaking of which, Kamisato Uehua actually knows Flying Thunder God technique. Isn't this the ninjutsu of the 4th generation master? Some people were puzzled and didn't understand how Kamisato Uehua knew Flying Thunder God technique. But he was immediately despised. Why do you care how he learned Flying Thunder God technique? It's better for all of us Konoha shinobi to learn this technique. Besides, are you afraid that he learned it secretly? Don't forget that Kamisato Uehua didn't have a team leader after graduation, and he disappeared for 3 months. Do you understand now? The man replied, obviously knowing Kamisato Uehua well, and even found out that Kamisato Uehua didn't join the team after graduation. Without a team leader, she disappeared for 3 months, and she also learned the Flying Thunder God technique. Could it be that I understand? No wonder it was the 3rd generation master who taught Kamisato Tsukika personally. After hearing this, the man suddenly realized why Kamisato Tsukika knew the Flying Thunder God technique. Although the village keeps the identity information of Umbu members confidential, If you really want to know whether someone is umbu, it is still easy to infer if you have some information. Now I think it's still unreal. That's the Flying Thunder God technique, which has not been learned by any ninja since the 4th generation master. Someone sighed, saying that he was an older ninja who had experienced the era of the 4th Hokage. Yes, when I saw Kamisato Tsukika using the Flying Thunder God technique today, I really felt like I saw the 4th generation master. It was so amazing, elusive, and killing people in just a moment. Another person sighed and couldn't help but miss the 4th generation master when he said this. Kamiri Tsukika's strengths are not only in the Flying Thunder God technique. Have you forgotten the lightning style he used? It's simply amazing. It seems that there is no need for hand seals at all. Someone spoke excitedly, happily sharing the secrets he discovered with others. 013407230144380140. Well, I saw it too. Kamisato Tsukika did use that ninjutsu without hand seals. It's hard to imagine that such a technique would be a non-hand seal ninjutsu. It's incredible. I saw at the time too. This should be a ninjutsu created by Kamisato Tsukika, right? It's incredible. When it comes to the non-hand seal lightning style ninjutsu, many people immediately responded. They all saw Kamisato Tsukika's thunder killing gun and were deeply shocked by it. And his taijutsu, didn't you find Kamisato Tsuki 727 Hua's taijutsu is very strong? Even if he doesn't use Flying Thunder God technique and that unprinted lightning style ninjutsu, he still killed Sunagakure and Otogakure ninjas. Another taijutsu ninja spoke up, and everyone got excited when he said this. Yes, it seems to be the 8 inner gates technique. That technique is famous for being difficult to practice, but looking at Kamisato Tsukika, I'm afraid she has practiced it to at least the 5th gate. It's really unbelievable. Flying Thunder God technique, 8 inner gates technique, and sealless ninjutsu. It's really hard to imagine how he practiced it. If I practice any of these, I'm afraid I will never be able to reach his current level in my lifetime. Because this is a true genius, always able to do something that shocks ordinary people like us, just like the 12-year-old Jinin Kakashi. And Kamisato Tsukika is even more talented than Kakashi. At his age, Kakashi doesn't have the power to influence a war. People kept discussing Kamisato Tsukika and began to discover that Kamisato Tsukika's edge was covered by the Flying Thunder God technique. The more they discussed it, the more shocked the ninjas of Konoha were, the more they felt Kamisato was magical. This kind of discussion can be seen everywhere in Konoha now. As long as there are ninjas, you can hear discussions about Kamisato Tsukika. This also made the people who just returned to the village Naruto, Sasuke, and the others were stunned. Chapter 91. Sasuke is shocked. Naruto is in disbelief. You know Flying Thunder God technique? What Flying Thunder God technique? Is it powerful? Hearing the ninjas in the village discussing Kamisato Tsukika and Flying Thunder God technique, Uzumaki Naruto was confused and puzzled. This made Shikamaru and little Sakura on the side hold their foreheads. And Uchiha Sasuke was shocked. Flying Thunder God technique. Once the 4th Hokage's specialty, ninjutsu, has the ability to instantly move to the position of the technique. The 4th Hokage is called the Yellow Flash because of this technique. Shikamaru explained to Naruto, and he was also shocked. I didn't expect Tsukika to use Flying Thunder God technique, which has been lost for more than 10 years. Haruno Sakura sighed. Although she knew only a little about Flying Thunder God technique, she knew it was a very powerful ninjutsu. In that case, isn't Tsukika very, very powerful now? Naruto still didn't know what Flying Thunder God technique meant, but he could tell from the expressions of Shikamaru and little Sakura that they were very shocked at the moment. And Sasuke also looked unbelievable now. This made Naruto know that Flying Thunder God technique must be a very powerful technique. Tsukika-kun seems to have always been very powerful, right? Haruno Sakura spoke. After graduating from their ninja school and seeing Kamisato Tsukika kill Momochi Zabuza in the Land of Waves, Haruno Sakura knew Kamisato Tsukika was a very powerful ninja. Damn, Yuawa's become so powerful secretly. I will definitely catch up with him. Naruto spoke with full energy, and then he heard someone discussing that Kamisato Tsukika killed Orochimaru. Orochimaru? Isn't he the pervert guy in the Death Forest? He was killed by Tsukika. Naruto became excited. He didn't have any good impression of Orochimaru. Uchiha Sasuke's eyes widened when he heard that Kamisato Tsukika knew Flying Thunder God technique. Uchiha Sasuke could still comfort himself that he might be able to learn that technique. He still had a chance to catch up with Kamisato Tsukika. But after hearing that Kamisato Tsukika killed Orochimaru, Uchiha Sasuke, who had personally experienced how terrifying Orochimaru was, could no longer deceive himself. The gap between him and Kamisato Tsukika might have reached a point beyond his imagination. After all, even now, Uchiha Sasuke still felt that he was facing. As for Orochimaru, there was only one ending: being killed instantly. And Orochimaru, who could kill him instantly, actually died at the hands of Kamisato Tsukika. How is it possible? Orochimaru is so scary. How could he be killed by Kamisato Tsukika? Uchiha Sasuke muttered to himself, and it was a bit hard for him to accept it. How is it impossible? Kamisato Tsukika is a super genius who knows Flying Thunder God technique, 8 Inner Gates technique, and unprinted lightning-style ninjutsu. It is normal for her to kill Orochimaru. 2 young ninjas passing by heard Uchiha Sasuke's mumbling, and one of them couldn't help but refute. Even though he had only known Kamisato Tsukika for less than a day, and even before today, he didn't know what Kamisato Tsukika looked like. It didn't prevent this young ninja from becoming a fan of Kamisato Tsukika. 8 Inner Gates? Tsukika actually knows 8 Inner Gates? Is it Lee's technique? Naruto was shocked. He thought of Lee, when Lee's 8 Inner Gates technique shocked all of them during the preliminaries. Naruto didn't expect Kamisato Tsukika to know 8 Inner Gates technique, which was not visible at all. However, Sakura and Sasuke secretly said that it was true. They had seen Kamisato Tsukika use 8 Inner Gates technique in the Death Forest, but they didn't know that the technique was called 8 Inner Gates at that time. When Lee used it later, the two of them had already confirmed in their hearts that Kamisato Tsukika was using 8 Inner Gates technique, and only Lee could use it. Naruto didn't react. Who is Lee? But it should be the 8 Inner Gates technique you were thinking of. From your tone, you seem to be very familiar with Kamisato Tsukika. The young ninja's eyes lit up, and he looked at Naruto and spoke. Naruto heard this and immediately put on a very proud look. Of course, Tsukika is my good brother. We have a good relationship. Is that so? Then can you please tell us what kind of person he is? The other young ninja was looking forward to it. Kamisato Tsukika is now a mystery. Every ninja in Konoha can't help but want to dig out information they don't know about him and find out more about Kamisato Tsukika's unknown past. Of course, no problem. Naruto heard this and started talking about Kamisato Tsukika, especially the fact that Kamisato Tsukika became a genius in 1 year. The young ninja was stunned and exclaimed continuously. Shikamaru, Sakura, and Sasuke were a little surprised to see the 2 young ninjas like this. It seems that Tsukika made a big noise during our absence, Shikamaru said. It was not difficult to guess. After all, if there was no big noise, how could they hear all the news about Tsukika all the way? She was a genius since the ninja school and the top student. As expected of Shinryu Tsukika, she is simply amazing. No wonder she was favored by the 3rd generation leader at such a young age. Alas, it's a pity that the 3rd generation leader was killed by that hateful guy, Orochimaru. One of the young ninjas sighed when he said this. They have been deliberately avoiding the topic of the 3rd generation leader's death in battle because it is too sad. However, when the young ninjas said this, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Shikamaru were stunned. What did they just hear? The 3rd generation leader died? Killed by Orochimaru? You just said the 3rd generation leader? Shikamaru asked with some uncertainty. Hearing this, the young ninja was silent for a while, and his expression suddenly became depressed. Yes, the 3rd generation master, Hanwha Zhao, died in battle, killed by that guy Orochimaru. However, Kamisato Tsukika has avenged the 3rd generation master, and he personally took back the head of Orochimaru the young ninja said, and he breathed a sigh of relief. Although the third-generation master died in battle, someone finally avenged him, right? This is also the reason why they really admire Kamisato Tsukika now. How is it possible? How could the third-generation grandfather die? Naruto couldn't accept it. He turned around and ran towards the Hokage building. Naruto, Shikamaru, and little Sakura saw this and hurried to catch up. Sasuke also followed silently. He looked unchanged on the surface, but the whole person couldn't help but speed up his pace. Kamisato Tsukika knows Flying Thunder God Technique. Kamisato Tsukika killed Orochimaru, and the third-generation master died in battle at the hands of Orochimaru. Uchiha Sasuke was confused by the many messages in his heart. Chapter 92, Why People Can Die for Others This Day, was a sad day for the entire Konoha. Early in the morning, Kamisato Tsukika changed into a black outfit and went out in silence. Today, the village will hold a funeral for the third Hokage. A funeral will also be held for those who sacrificed their lives to protect Konoha. After going out, Kamisato Tsukika looked up at the sky. At this time, the sky was covered with thick clouds, the cold wind blew, the trees rustled, and the leaves fell with the wind, falling weakly to the ground. Kamisato Tsukika walked on the streets of Konoha, and people wearing black clothes like him could be seen everywhere. Everyone was silent, depressed, holding a white flower in their hands, and walked silently towards the Hokage building. No one spoke, and the whole Konoha was quiet. Kamisato Tsukika walked silently, entered the Hokage building, and came to the top of the Hokage building. At this time, there were already many ninjas here. Udatain Karu, Midokado Hamura, Sarutobi Asuma, Hatake Kakashi, Might Guy, Narashikaka Naruto, Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, Hinata, Shikamaru, Ino, Chai. Everyone stood in two teams, waiting quietly. Kamisato Tsukika did not see Jiraiya. That free and easy man, 773, at this time, may not even change his black clothes, and he was reminiscing about the past alone. The coffin of the third-generation leader was already there, surrounded by flowers, and on a spirit table, there was the photo that Kamisato Tsukika had seen many times. It was just that I had looked at this photo before in the Hokage's office, and at that time, the third-generation leader was sitting under the photo, and now, this photo is placed on the spirit table. Under the photo is still the third-generation leader, but he will never smile and call himself Shao Tsukika again. Looking at the photo, Kamisato Tsukika couldn't help but feel dark in her heart. Tick-tick. At a certain moment, raindrops suddenly fell from the sky. It's raining. Yuhi Kurenai, who was beside Kamisato Tsukika, spoke and looked up at the sky. Maybe the heavens also felt the sadness. Kamisato Tsukika spoke, letting the rain fall on her body. Soon, the memorial service began. Starting with Udatain Koharu and Midokado Hamura, everyone placed the white flowers they brought in front of the third-generation spirit platform. Everyone stayed there for a second or two. Perhaps he thought of something. He thought of memories with the third Hokage Dabe. Some images also emerged in Kamisato Tsukika's mind. The images of the third Hokage teaching him ninjutsu seriously, and the images of the third Hokage telling him sincerely that the future of Konoha was handed over to them, the young people. After putting down the flowers, Kamisato Tsukika returned to the crowd. Then he heard Naruto speaking not far away. Teacher Irika, why would people risk their lives for others? People will die alone and disappear. The past and present life, as well as the future, will disappear together. Many people died in missions or wars. This is so simple that it is surprising. Irika spoke, and everyone listened quietly. These dead people also had dreams and goals, but no matter who they are, they all have things they cherish: parents, brothers, friends, and lovers. People who are important to them. Trust each other, help each other from the moment you were born, the bond between you and your loved ones. And then this red line will become thicker and harder as time goes by. There is no reason to explain. People who have this kind of red line will definitely do this because it is very important. Hearing this, Kamisato Tsukika couldn't help but glance at Yuhi Kurenai beside her. but she found that Yuhi Kurenai was also looking at her. However, the two separated immediately after their eyes met and did not let others miss the tacit understanding between the two. After Irika finished speaking, Naruto took over the conversation. I can understand it, but death is really painful, he said, feeling depressed. Seeing this, Hatake Kakashi spoke. The third Hokage did not die in vain. He left important things to us. One day you will understand. After speaking, Hatake Kakashi stopped. I can understand this. Naruto's mouth corners slightly raised. He really grew up a lot at this moment and understood a lot. The rain has stopped, Haruno Sakura said in surprise. Sasuke looked up and saw that the dark clouds in the sky were dissipating quickly. Not long after, the light fell from above again. The sky cleared up. Kamisato Tsukika looked at the portrait of the third-generation leader in the sun, and at this moment he seemed to hear the familiar voice of Shao Yuewa. Not long after, the third generation's memorial service ended, and people left in groups of 3 or 5. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura followed Hatake Kakashi, Shikamaru Chai, and Ino, Hinata Yoshino, Tenten Shaolin Niji, and others. Kamisato Tsukika also left with them. After parting with everyone, Kamisato Tsukika returned to his cabin alone. At this moment, he didn't know what he should do. After all, he had been transferred from Umbu, but the new appointment had not yet come down. Just do some research. Thinking about it, after changing clothes, Kamisato Tsukika was ready to continue his research. But after a while of deduction, Kamisato Tsukika gave up. He might have been affected by Irika's words, or because the death of the third generation still had an impact on him, which made him feel a little uneasy for a while. So what should I do? Kamiru Tsukika thought, picked up a bunch of flowers he had cultivated before, and then his body suddenly disappeared from the spot. When he appeared again, Kamisato Tsukika had come to a familiar place. This is a place he often comes to, with many beautiful flowers and full of flower fragrance. It is naturally the balcony of Shirihong's house. After putting down the flowers in his hand, Kamisato Tsukika was about to leave, but was stopped by a voice. Stay, have a cup of tea before leaving. Hearing Shirihong's voice, In-Xin was surprised. This was the first time that Shirihong took the initiative to call him. This made Kamisato Tsukika a little at a loss for a while, and his heart beat faster. But he still calmed himself down, entered Shirihong's bedroom from the balcony, and then entered Shirihong's living room. At this time, Shirihong also changed her clothes, sat cross-legged in front of the tea table, and was making tea. Kamisato Tsukika walked over and sat cross-legged. Looking at the cup, the tea leaves in it were a flower. 12 years ago, the Nine-Tails Rebellion happened in the village, and my father died in that disaster. Yuhi Kurenai suddenly spoke up and told Kamisato Tsukika what happened 12 years ago. Looking at Yuhi Kurenai, who was lost in memories, Kamisato Tsukika understood why Yuhi Kurenai took the initiative to let him stay today. Because, like him, Yuhi Kurenai was also upset by what Irika and Kakashi said at the third-generation funeral today, and she thought her father. Her father's choice at that time was a good answer to Naruto's question today. Yuhi Kurenai wanted to tell Kamisato Tsukika the answer her father had given her. Chapter 93. Ninja World's attention when Konoha held a funeral for the third Hokage and other victims. The ninja world was also in an uproar. Iwagakure, Tsuchikage's office. Third Tsuchikage Onoki was stunned when he looked at the information in his hand. After a long time, he put the information down and sighed. I didn't expect that old guy, Sarutobi Hiruzen, was dead. And he died at the hands of Orochimaru, Onoki said with a sigh, and he was a little emotional for a while. This old rival who had been fighting with him for decades finally left before him. Now, there are really few friends of the same generation. Compared to that, I think you should care more about the Konoha genius named Kamisato Tsukika. Isn't he? He has mastered the Flying Thunder God technique and has the strength to kill Orochimaru. Seeing the third Tsuchikage's melancholy look, Heizhuang couldn't help but speak. She didn't feel much about the death of the third Hokage, but instead had a strong interest in Kamisato Tsukika. The most important thing is that according to the intelligence, he is only 12 years old and already has the strength of a Kage. This sounds scary. Kuratsuchi spoke again, and she doubted the authenticity of the intelligence. A 12-year-old Jinin is fine. After all, such a genius has appeared in a Wagakure. But a 12-year-old elite Jinin is too much. What kind of talent can be so powerful at such a young age? However, Kamisato Tsukika is a Kage-level person who is more than 12 years old. This is simply scary and makes people doubt life. Onoki also withdrew his disappointment after hearing this. Thinking about the description of Kamisato Tsukika in the intelligence, he couldn't help but sigh again in his heart. Konoha is really lucky. It seems that there has never been a lack of geniuses. From the former Sannin to the later Namikaze Minato, then Hitaki Kakashi, Soka Shursui, and finally to the current Kamisato Tsukika. Konoha seems to be favored by God, and there are always talented ninjas who are famous in the ninja world. If what the intelligence says is true, then Konoha may have another Namikaze Minato, which is really a problem. Onoki opened his mouth and couldn't help but think of Namikaze Minato. During the Third Ninja World War, it was Namikaze Minato who beat Iwagakure and forced them to end the war and declare the war a failure. The feat of killing more than 50 Iwagakure ninjas in that instant and turning the tide of the war by himself is still an unforgettable pain in Iwagakure's heart. Onoki still remembers the feeling of powerlessness when he wanted to deal with Namikaze Minato but couldn't find any way at all. I didn't expect that after so many years, someone else has learned the Flying Thunder God technique, and it seems that he is not worse than Namikaze Minato. He may even surpass Namikaze Minato. Thinking that Kamisato Yuehua will only be 13 years old in 1 month, Onoki feels a slight headache. He is so powerful now. If we wait another 10 or 8 years, how powerful will Kamisato Tsukika be? By that time, with Kamisato Tsukika alone, I am afraid that other ninja villages will not dare to wage war against Konoha. On the other hand, Iwagakure has not yet found a ninja who can inherit his bloodline's dust release. Among the younger ninjas, the most outstanding Kuratsuchi is not yet at the level of Jinin. It was not easy to find a genius ninja Deidara before, but he defected. If he dies in Iwagakure and Konoha go to war, who in Iwagakure can stop Kamisato Tsukika? Alas, sighing inwardly, Onoki worried about the future of Iwagakure, the land of lightning, cloud, shinobi village. The fourth Reikage was also shocked when he looked at the information in his hand. However, the fourth Reikage was not shocked by the death of the third Hokage. For the fourth Reikage, the third Hokage's life and death at this age no longer had much impact on the situation in the ninja world. What shocked him was the other person in the information. Has this information been confirmed? The fourth Reikage spoke in a deep voice, confirming the authenticity of the information with she again. It's no wonder that the fourth Reikage did this, because the information in the information looked too absurd and too unbelievable. 013407230 Filu 144380540. Although it does look unbelievable, it can be confirmed that the information is correct. She spoke, and when he saw the information, he also felt it was unbelievable. Ha! I didn't expect that more than 10 years later, there are still people who can learn Flying Thunder God technique. I really want to fight him. Fourth Reikage laughed a few times, then spoke, feeling a little restless inside. More than 10 years ago, he and Killer Bee encountered fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato on the battlefield. That was the first time that fourth Reikage lost so thoroughly, and it was at his most proud speed. This made fourth Reikage very unconvinced. After the war, he worked hard to practice lightning-style chakra mode, which greatly improved his speed. However, when he wanted to fight Namikaze Minato again, he heard the news that Namikaze Minato had died. This has always been a regret for fourth Reikage. And now, after more than 10 years, Flying Thunder God technique, which was thought to have become a masterpiece, has reappeared in the world again. This made fourth Reikage a little restless. Reikage, calm down. Starting a war is not a trivial matter. You need to consider a lot. And although Konoha lost a third-generation member, its overall strength has not been affected. Jiraiya of Sannin is also in Konoha now. She thought that the fourth Reikage was going to go to war with Konoha. He was shocked and quickly persuaded him. Don't worry, I have no intention of starting a war. The fourth Reikage interrupted Shi's persuasion. He is no longer the impulsive young man he used to be. He will not easily lead the unhidden village into the tears of war. I was scared to death. She breathed a sigh of relief. He thought that the fourth Reikage was going to start a war. But you can pay attention to this boy named Kamisato Tsukika. He has such strength at this age. He is indeed a threat to the village. The fourth Reikage spoke again, and his tone became serious. He has a deep understanding of the power of Namake's Minato and the rogue and insolubility of the Flying Thunder God technique. Although it is still unknown whether Kamisato Tsukika will become Hokage in the future, it is not impossible. If Kamisato Tsukika becomes Hokage, it is fine if he is the next Namake's Minato. But what if Kamisato Tsukika is a Hokage who focuses on fighting? The fourth Hokage has to consider how to deal with Kamisato Tsukika on the battlefield. It is a headache to think about it. However, although the fourth Reikage is also afraid in his heart, he is not to the point of being unable to sleep or eat. Kamisato Tsukika is very powerful, but he also believes in his own strength. Chapter 94. Attention from Akatsuki Water Country, Kirigakure, Mizuki's office. Terumi May couldn't help but TSK after reading the information in her hand. It's really shocking. If it weren't for the authenticity of the information, I would have suspected that this was fake information. Terumi Mai spoke. Compared with the death of the third Hokage in the information, she was more concerned about Kamisato Tsukika, who was in the limelight this time. As a young Kage and a double blood limit, Terumi Mai herself is a true genius. But when she was Kamisato Tsukika's age, she didn't have such a strong strength. It can even be said that she was far behind, and she was not at the same level as Kamisato Tsukika now. Flying Thunder God technique, killing Orochimaru, is really amazing and unbelievable. Kingi spoke, his heart was also full of shock. 240. And compared to Umi May, he knew the horror of Flying Thunder God technique better. Back then, Namake's Minato made the hidden village suffer a lot. Alas, such an excellent little brother. Why isn't he in our Kirigakure? Terumi Mai shined. After becoming Mizuki, she thought about Kirigakure every day, and the affairs of young ninjas were naturally her main concern. Send a condolence letter to Konoha. Kamisato Tsukika has grown up. I just hope that he will not be a guy who likes war in the future. Terumi Mai said, if Kamisato Tsukika is just a genius now, then maybe they can find a way to kill Kamisato Tsukika. But judging from the fighting power shown by Kamisato Tsukika in the Konoha Chunin selection exam, the opponent is no longer just a simple genius. Kamisato Tsukika's record has made him a strong man by the ninjas in the ninja world. Such a person has grown up, and it is difficult to find a way to kill him. Rain Country, Rain Shinobi Village. In the familiar hall, the Akatsuki organization that will be famous in the world in the future is gathering here at this time. Of course, not all members are in person. Sudden meeting? Did something interesting happen? My ceremony was almost disturbed. An arrogant voice sounded first. It was hidden from the undead duo. Others also looked at the leader of Akatsuki, Pain, after hearing this. Then Pain said, Orochimaru is dead. Everyone was silent after hearing this. Obviously, no one expected Pain to tell this news, especially Scorpion and Deidara. They had participated in the mission of hunting down Orochimaru before, but they failed without a doubt. So they knew very well that Orochimaru was difficult to deal with. And not only did they think Orochimaru was difficult to deal with, the entire Akatsuki organization thought that Orochimaru was a very difficult person. It was for this reason that Orochimaru, who betrayed Akatsuki, had not been in trouble for so long. After the silence, someone laughed. Is this true? That's great. Orochimaru, who betrayed the organization, should have died long ago. It was Haiden, who was obviously very satisfied with Orochimaru's death. However, he continued with regret. What a pity. I was thinking of holding a ceremony for Orochimaru, but it seems impossible. By the way, how did Orochimaru die? I'm curious, who killed him? Not only Haydn, but also the members of the entire Akatsuki organization who had not heard about the Konoha Chunin selection exam incident were full of curiosity at this moment. They thought of many people in their minds, but they didn't expect that Orochimaru could be fired. Even Uchiha Itachi, who had always remained calm, became curious. Although he and Kisame were in the land of fire at this time, they had just completed their mission and didn't know what happened in Konoha. He died at the hands of Konoha 3rd Hokage and a Konoha shinobi named Kamisato Tsukika, and his head was cut off. Pain spoke, and the hall became lively as soon as he finished speaking. So, it was the 3rd Hokage who took action himself. Is he being exterminated? How interesting. Haydn laughed. He and Orochimaru didn't get along very well. I didn't expect that Sarutobi Hiruzen could kill Orochimaru at such an old age. Interesting. Kakuzu opened his mouth. Only he, an old man who had lived for 100 years, could call the 3rd Hokage a kid. Who is Kamisato Tsukika? I have never heard of this name before. Itachi, do you know this ninja? Hoshigaki Kisame couldn't help asking Uchiha Itachi next to him. He really didn't have any impression of the name Kamisato Tsukika. Zero Uchiha Itachi shook his head. He didn't have any impression of the name Kamisato Tsukika at all, which made him frown secretly. After all, he should know all the ninjas with names in Konoha. Chief, who is this Kamisato Tsukika? Deidara couldn't help asking Pain. He was also curious about Kamisato Tsukika. It's normal that you don't know this person, because Kamisato Tsukika is only 13 years old. No, to be precise, he'll be 13 in a month. Pain opened his mouth, making everyone silent again. Genius? It's really unexpected. Red Sand Scorpion spoke. He had been thinking about who Kamisato Tsukika was for a long time, but he had no impression of her. He didn't expect her to be a genius. She is indeed a genius, but she is also a powerful ninja because Kamisato Tsukika has mastered the Flying Thunder God technique, the 8 Inner Gates technique, and a powerful lightning-style ninjutsu. His strength is not worse than yours, and may even be stronger. Pain spoke again, and everyone was silent. Their minds were full of the information that Pain said. After several seconds, Haydn spoke. It's fake. Isn't Flying Thunder God technique the 4th Hokage's technique? And if the electricity is stronger than ours, how can 10 children be stronger than us? Faced with Haydn's doubts, Pain just said lightly, Flying Thunder God technique, the 4th Hokage is very good at it, but it doesn't mean that he's the only one who can use it. As for Kamisato Tsukika's strength, you only need to know that he killed 2 elite Chunin, more than a dozen Chunin, and more than 60 Chunin by himself in the incident of Konoha Chunin selection exam. In addition, although Orochimaru was seriously injured in the fight with the 3rd Hokage first, Orochimaru killed the 3rd Hokage, and Orochimaru was killed by Kamisato Tsukika. Hearing this, almost all members of the Akatsuki organization widened their eyes and were shocked by Kamisato Tsukika's record. What a great genius! After a long time, Hoshigaki Kisame spoke and glanced at Uchiha Itachi beside him. I couldn't help thinking, if Uchiha Itachi and Kamisato Tsukika fought, would it be very interesting. Both are Konoha geniuses. I don't know whether Mr. Itachi's Sharingan is more powerful or Kamisato Tsukika's Flying Thunder God technique is more powerful. It's interesting to think about it. Chapter 95. Shimura Dan's Deception of Wagakure, Cloud Shinobi Village, Kirigakure, Akatsuki Organization, Iron Country. The name of Kamisato Uehua officially entered the eyes of various forces in the ninja world and was carefully remembered by those powerful figures in the ninja world. Even ordinary ninjas knew that a super genius named Kamisato Uehua appeared in Konoha, who was the successor of Flying Thunder God technique and had very strong strength. In Konoha, Kamisato Uehua's reputation reached its peak, and she became a household name and gained many fans. This made Kamisato Uehua stay at home and not go out. Now he was surrounded by people when he went out. Although Kamisato Uehua was mentally strong and didn't care about other people's eyes, he still felt troubled. Of course, it wasn't just staying at home. Kamisato Uehua would still go out. Go to Yuhi Kurenai's house for tea. Since the day of the 3rd generation's festival, Yuhi Kurenai confessed her feelings to Kamisato Uehua, and the relationship between the two has changed a lot. Now they can sit together peacefully. The atmosphere has become warm and a little ambiguous. It is very addictive. However, after some true and false news about the fifth Hokage came out, Kamisato Uehua knew that his leisurely days were over. Shimura Dans is a guy who is not willing to be lonely. He has coveted the position of Hokage for so long, and now that the third generation is finally dead, how could he not take action? Some of those true and false news were released by him. This guy wants to build momentum for himself. This made Kamisato Uehua laugh in his heart. This old guy is really shameless. On this day, Kamisato Uehua practiced at home. At a certain moment, he opened his eyes and waited quietly. After a few seconds, a tightly wrapped ninja appeared and spoke to Kamisato Uehua. Kamisato Uehua, Lord Danzo invites you. Hearing this, Kamisato Uehua was not surprised. He had long guessed that Shimura Dans would definitely take the initiative to contact him. Lead the way. The two left quietly. The root underground base. After entering here, Kamisato Uehua felt a chill. Unlike Umbu, the Umbu base only looks chilly on the outside, but it is actually very bright inside, and it does not make people feel depressed. However, the root base is really chilly, which makes people feel depressed. After following the root members, Kamisato Uehua met Shimura Dans, the famous conspirator of Konoha, the Pot King. I wonder what Lord Danzo wants to talk to me about. Kamisato Tsukika spoke, looking at Shimura Dans, alert in his heart. Although according to Kamisato Tsukika's speculation, Shimura Dans mainly sought him out to win him over. But Shimura Dans had a criminal record. Uchiha Shursui was attacked by him and lost an eye. Now that eye is still in Shimura Dan's eye socket. You know me? It seems that Sarutobi has told you a lot of things. Shimura Dan spoke, looking down at Kamisato Tsukika and not taking Kamisato seriously in his heart. Kamisato Tsukika is indeed very powerful, but no matter how powerful she is just a young boy in Shimura Dan's eyes. Thanks to the kindness of the third generation master, I didn't know a lot of things. Kamisato Tsukika spoke, guessing in his heart how Shimura Dans would win him over. It should be. After all, you are a true genius and a ninja who can become the backbone of Konoha in the future. I believe Sarutobi also thinks so. Shimura Dan spoke, then paused for a moment before looking at Shunsei Yonhwa seriously. Kamiri Uehua, what do you think of the current situation of Konoha and the current situation of the ninja world? He asked Kamisato Uehua a big question, really confirming Kamisato Uehua's thoughts and seeing if Kamisato Uehua and he were the same. If yes, then he was trying to win over Kamisato Uehua in a way. If not, then it was another way to win over Kamisato Uehua. Upon hearing this, Kamisato Uehua directly played Tai Chi with Shimura Dans, saying that he was still young and had no experience and did not know much about the situation of Konoha and the ninja world, so he could not give any insights. Kamisato Uehua's answer was both within Shimura Dan's expectations and beyond his expectations. It's really difficult for you to answer such a question at such a young age. After all, I have followed the second Hokage and experienced several wars and hundreds of S-level missions. Now, decades have passed, and I have my own views on the current situation of the ninja world. Shimura Dan spoke, and by the way, he revealed some of his resume to Kamisato Uehua, telling Kamisato Uehua that he is a very powerful ninja. The current ninja world is already on the verge of the Fourth Ninja World War. Suddenly, Shimura Dan spoke with a shocking tone, which made Kamisato Uehua stunned. Shimura Dan was very satisfied with Kamisato Tsukika's reaction, and then he continued. The alliance between Sunagakure and Otogakure was not a sudden decision, but a premeditated conspiracy. But do you know why Sunagakure wants to wage war against Konoha? I don't know, because Sunagakure has reached the point where it has to wage war. Shimura Dans opened his mouth and then continued. Although long-term peace is everyone's inner expectation, peace means development, and development requires resources. When the resources of the village are no longer enough to meet the development needs of the village, When the resources of the village are difficult to maintain the lives of the villagers, the outbreak of war is inevitable. Sand Shinobi 827 Village, so will Ruoin Village and Cloud Shinobi Village. If you want to meet the needs of the village and the villagers again, there's only one way. That is to get more resources. And how to obtain resources? The answer is very simple. Other villages have been doing that for decades, that is war. As for the target of the war, Konoha, which has the richest land and the most abundant resources, is obviously their first choice. Shimura Dan spoke. Now he had to first establish a tall image of Kamisato Yuehua who saw through everything. Then let Kamisato Yuehua feel a sense of urgency. And finally let Kamisato Yuehua believe that he, Shimura Dans, could save Konoha and lead Konoha to a more glorious glory. Looking at Kamisato Yuehua and seeing her solemn expression, Shimura Dans felt that his plan was progressing very successfully. So he continued. In the First Ninja World War, the Second Ninja World War, and the Third Ninja World War, Konoha did not take the initiative to launch a war against other villages, but every time, Konoha was involved in the war. It is because, in the eyes of other villages, Konoha is a fat sheep. As long as they are hungry, they will bite Konoha hard. And now, after such a long period of development, the development needs and resources of each village have once again become problematic. So I say that Konoha is already on the brink of war. Chapter 96. Selection of the 5th Hokage Shimura Dan spent a lot of time to deceive Kamisato Tsukika, and it seemed that Kamisato Tsukika was confused. However, Kamisato Tsukika was clear in his mind. He knew the reason for the outbreak of the Ninja World War better than Shimura Dan's, and knew that the current Ninja World War was impossible to fight. Of course, Kamisato Tsukika did not express his own opinion. Since Shimura Dan's wanted to deceive, let him perform to his heart's content. When Yakushi Kabuto collected the evidence, Kamisato Tsukika would let Shimura Dan's know what a surprise is. At the end of this deception, Shimura Dan's invited Kamisato Tsukika to work in the route and made a promise to Kamisato Tsukika that when he became Hokage, Kamisato Tsukika would take over his position and become the leader of the route. Kamisato Tsukika did not accept or refuse immediately, but said that she would think about it before making a decision. Such an answer from Kamisato Tsukika obviously made Shimura Dan's unhappy, but he did not embarrass Kamisato Tsukika. After leaving the route and returning home, Kamisato Tsukika sneered. Shimura Dan's has not yet become Hokage, but he already considers himself the 5th Hokage, which is ridiculous. He did not even ask whether the 2 advisors of Konoha agree, whether the Jonin class leader of Konoha agrees, and whether Jiraiya agrees. Hokage Building, Hokage Office. Udatane, Koharu, and Midokado Hamura took the initiative to ask Jiraiya to meet here. After the 3 met, Udatane, Koharu, and Midokado Hamura got straight to the point and told Jiraiya that they hoped he would serve as the 5th Hokage of Konoha. Me? No. I'm not suitable to be Hokage. Jiraiya refused without thinking. For someone like him, if he was asked to do processing work in this office from morning to night every day, it would be more uncomfortable than killing him. Others are eager to get the position of Hokage, but Jiraiya can't even hide. Jiraiya, you're the most suitable person to be Hokage in the village now, and only you can stabilize the hearts of the people in the village and make the ninjas and ordinary people in the village willing to accept it. You don't want Shimura Dan's to become Hokage. He is too radical and may bring Konoha into war. Udatane Karu spoke bluntly. Anyway, Konoha must not be handed over to Shimura Dan's. Indeed, you're the most suitable person to take over the 5th Hokage in the entire Konoha now. In terms of strength, you are not weaker than Sarutobi. In terms of reputation, you are Sannin. In terms of contribution to Konoha, you have led Konoha to win 2 wars. And you are also a disciple of the 3rd generation. The position of Hokage must belong to you. Midokado Hamura also spoke up. They did not randomly nominate Jiraiya to become the 5th Hokage, but after careful consideration. Although there are other suitable candidates in the village, such as Hatake Kakashi, such as Sarutobi Asuma, but compared with Jiraiya, they are obviously much inferior. This inferiority is true whether in terms of strength, reputation, or contribution to Konoha, or the recognition of Konoha shinobi and ordinary people. Jiraiya rolled his eyes in his heart. Although his conditions are indeed in line with the conditions for becoming the 5th Hokage, he himself is not willing. If we talk about these aspects, there is actually someone who is more suitable to be the 5th Hokage than me. Jiraiya spoke, which made Yuditane Koharu and Midokado Hamura stunned. Konoha, is there someone more suitable to be the 5th Hokage than Jiraiya? Why didn't they think of it? Who are you talking about? Yuditane Koharu frowned and spoke. Jiraiya smiled confidently. Tsunade, in terms of strength, reputation, contribution to Konoha, and recognition by the people of Konoha, Tsunade is not inferior to me in every aspect and is even more suitable than me, because she is not only a disciple of the 3rd generation, one of the Sannin, but also the granddaughter of the 1st generation master and the 2nd generation master. So, Tsunade is the most suitable person to be the 5th Hokage. After Jiraiya finished speaking, Yuditane Koharu and Midokado Hamura's eyes lit up, but they immediately realized the problem. What you said does make sense. Compared to you, Tsunade is indeed more suitable to be the 5th Hokage. However, Tsunade has been away from Konoha for more than 10 years. We don't even know where she is. How can we make her the 5th Hokage? Midokado Hamura said. Tsunade is indeed suitable, but the main problem now is that Tsunade is not there. Not to mention Tsunade's whereabouts. They don't even have clear information about whether Tsunade is dead or alive. We can't let someone who is not in Konoha become the 5th Hokage of Konoha, right? Hearing this, Jiraiya smiled confidently. 013407230144390 Tsunade is not in Konoha. Can we find her back soon? That's fine, but we can't confirm the Hokage until we find Tsunade, right? What if we can't find her? Yuditane Koharu said. If Tsunade was so easy to find, Konoha wouldn't have known news of Tsunade for so long. Don't worry, I will go find Tsunade myself. Jiraiya had obviously thought about this matter a long time ago, so he volunteered to speak. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he attracted a suspicious look from Yuditane Koharu and Midokado Hamura. Jiraiya, you are not going to use the excuse of looking for Tsunade to leave Konoha and escape for becoming the 5th Hokage, right? Yuditane Koharu spoke, making Jiraiya exclaim, how could it be possible? He is not that kind of person. However, Jiraiya secretly thought that he was seen through. He did have this idea. Anyway, it doesn't matter to him who becomes the 5th, generation of Konoha, so he doesn't want to waste time on such things. We can agree to your suggestion, but it will take 2 months. Jiraiya, if you haven't brought Tsunade back in 2 months, then whether you are in Konoha or not, we will announce to the ninja world that you will become the 5th Hokage of Konoha. Yuditane Koharu spoke, directly blocking Jiraiya's retreat, making him roll his eyes again in his heart. These 2 old guys are not so easy to fool. After complaining in his heart, Jiraiya said calmly, don't worry, I will be here in 2 months after that. Jiraiya was about to leave. But before leaving, he suddenly stopped and said to Yuditane Koharu and Midokado Hamura, by the way, I will take someone with me this time. Uzumaki Naruto. Chapter 97 Orochimaru's Legacy. Jiraiya set off, taking Uzumaki Naruto on a journey to find Tsunade, and Kamisato Tsukika also quietly left the village because Yakushi Kabuto took the initiative to seek his help. 50 kilometers outside Konoha village, Yakushi Kabuto waited quietly, feeling a little uneasy. After parting with Kamisato Tsukika last time, he returned to the Otoge-kure village in the land of fields to try to receive what Orochimaru left behind. However, the process was not ideal, and Yakushi Kabuto encountered great obstacles. It can even be said that the Otoge-kure village did not obey him. Ordinary ninjas did not obey him, and Orochimaru's experiments did not obey him. Even Kagaya Kimimaro was full of dissatisfaction with Yakushi Kabuto and did not want to help Yakushi Kabuto integrate Orochimaru's legacy. There was no way. Yakushi Kabuto could only set up a game, gather all the thorns together, and then ask Kamisato Tsukika for help. To be honest, if possible, Yakushi Kabuto did not want to deal with Kamisato Tsukika. But there was really nothing I could do. I really didn't expect you to contact me so quickly, Senior Yakushi Kabuto. After Kamisato Uehua appeared, she looked at Yakushi Kabuto and spoke. Although Yakushi Kabuto looked very calm now, Kamisato Uehua could feel his inner tension. It seemed that she had left a deep impression on this senior. This is what Kamisato-sama needs. All the transaction information about Sure 550 Village Danzo and Orochimaru is here. The information contained in it is believed to be enough for Shimura Dans to have a headache for a long time. Yakushi Kabuto did not ask for help immediately, but handed Kamisato Uehua a pile of information. After taking the information handed over by Yakushi Kabuto, Kamisato Uehua casually flipped through some of it, and her murderous intent towards Shimura Dans became even stronger. It can only be said that Shimura Dans is worthy of being the first evil man of Hokage. It is really unforgivable for him not to die. He has done too many unscrupulous things. Very good. You are worthy of being Senior Yakushi Kabuto. The person that Senior Orochimaru entrusted to him before his death is indeed amazingly capable. After putting away the materials, Kamisato Tsukika sighed and then continued. I think you took the initiative to find me. It must not be just for this matter. Yakushi Kabuto nodded, showing a helpless expression. You know, although I'm still trusted by Orochimaru, the people of Otoge-kure do not trust me. And compared with Orochimaru, my strength is too weak. If I want to completely receive the legacy left by Orochimaru, I obviously can't do it alone. So, I have to trouble Kamisato to go to the Land of Fields. Yakushi Kabuto spoke. He was not ashamed to call Kamisato Tsukika Kamisato-sama. Instead, he said it very naturally. Kamisato Tsukika nodded. He had wanted to go to the Land of Fields for a long time. After all, the location where the Flying Thunder God technique that was carved for Orochimaru's summoning beast disappeared was in the direction of the Land of Fields. Richie Cave is likely to be in the territory of the Land of Fields. In addition, Kamisato Tsukika was very curious about the thing that Orochimaru gave to Yakushi Kabuto. He wanted to see what it was. There were also things left by Orochimaru, his test subjects, and his experimental results. Kamisato Tsukika was very interested. Let's go. Let me take a good look at what Senior Orochimaru has done over the years. Kamisato Tsukika spoke up and asked Yakushi Kabuto to lead the way. The two of them set off towards the Land of Fields. The Land of Fields is located in the north of the Land of Fire, bordering the Land of Fire and the Land of Frost. It is a small country. The Sound Village is located in the Land of Fields, a force created by Orochimaru. However, the ninjas of the Sound Village did not know that their leader was Orochimaru. If Orochimaru had not taken the initiative to expose himself in the Konoha Chunin exam this time, these people would still be in the dark. However, it would be fine if Orochimaru's identity was exposed. The main thing is that Orochimaru died. This made the ninjas of the Sound Village completely confused. For a time, the whole Sound Village was in panic and turmoil. Many people began to have their own plans in their hearts. Leave the Sound Village, or become the new leader of the Sound Village. Yes, Orochimaru just died, and many people in the Sound Village couldn't help it and wanted to take over everything of Orochimaru. They are not Orochimaru's diehards. Naturally, they plan for themselves. 0134072301443904450. This is also the reason why Yakushi Kabuto's work is not going so smoothly. In the Otoge-kure village. At this time, there are not many ninjas in the Otoge-kure village, only dozens of them. And they're basically Chunin ninjas, and there are very few Chunin ninjas. The reason why there are so few ninjas is naturally because the attack on Konoha caused heavy losses to the Otoge-kure village, and many ninjas died. Humph, what does that kid Yakushi Kabuto mean? After gathering us together, the whole person disappeared. Is he playing tricks on us? In the village leader's building, a masked middle-aged Otoge-kure spoke angrily with a cold look. He wants to become the new leader like this, and he is not reliable at all. How can we trust him? He is still too young. Another person spoke, and shook his head. Since he said he has something important to discuss, then wait for him for 2 days. Although this kid doesn't have much ability, Kimimaro trusts him very much, and Makushiban was the person the leader trusted the most before. Another person spoke up. The 3 of them were Jnin, and they were the only 3 Jnin left in the Otogeikure village. Hearing Kimimaro's name, the other 2 Jnin's faces changed, and they stopped talking. They could be dissatisfied with Yakushi Kabuto, because Yakushi Kabuto was a person who rose after the Konoha Chunin exam this time. Although it is said that he is trusted by Lord Orochimaru, no one knows whether it is true. However, Kimimaro is different. He is indeed one of Orochimaru's most trusted people and an absolute confidant of Orochimaru. They needed to curry favor with him before. The most important thing is that Kimimaro is not only trusted by Orochimaru, but also very strong. The 3 of them asked themselves that they were not Kimimaro's opponents. Yakushi Kabuto is trusted by Kimimaro very much, even if he did not explicitly support Yakushi Kabuto. Kabuto became the new leader, but he never opposed Yakushi Kabuto. This is why they are sitting here obediently now, in the same situation as these 3 ninjas, in a base outside the Sound Village. Many of Orochimaru's test subjects also gathered there. Some of them were people who were planted with incomplete curse marks by Orochimaru, and some are people whose bodies were transformed by Orochimaru. Most of them were Chunin, but there were also a few who were special Chunin. However, these are not the most important. The most important thing is that these people have great flaws in their hearts. Everyone is arrogant and conceited. They are unwilling to listen to Yakushi Kabuto. Therefore, Yakushi Kabuto gathered them all here from other bases. Chapter 98, Feast of Killing. Humph, I really want to kill you. In the base, the ninjas that Orochimaru regarded as reserve containers gathered together. They were transferred from various bases by Yakushi Kabuto, intending to kill them all. If Orochimaru was still there, it would be easy to kill these people. With just one order, they would fight each other until only the last person was left. But now that Orochimaru is dead, these people have become wild horses that have broken free from their reins, beasts that have escaped from their cages, and they're no longer under the control of Yakushi Kabuto. Kill me. Huh. Ha ha. Ridiculous words. Who do you think you are? Damn it. Every one of you guys deserves to die. Shut up. Why hasn't that BD Yakushi Kabuto appeared yet? He doesn't have time to stay with him in this damn place. I want to leave here. Orochimaru-sama will not die. He must be observing me in the dark. I must perform well. I am the most perfect container for Orochimaru-sama. Ha. A bunch of idiots. Wait. I will kill you all sooner or later. Dozens of Orochimaru's experimental subjects and reincarnation container candidates talked to each other. They all had problems with their mental state, and everyone was not a normal person. But this is normal. Those who are mentally normal have either left the base quietly or are still waiting quietly in the base. Those people, Yakushi Kabuto will not gather them together. He still needs those people to work for him. At a certain moment, the closed door opened. Kamisato Tsukika and Yakushi Kabuto, wearing masks, stepped into the hall of the base. Yakushi Kabuto stood one step behind Kamisato Tsukika. Everyone fell silent when they saw the two. Then they immediately became noisy again. Yakushi Kabuto, what do you mean by asking us to come here? Where's Lord Orochimaru? I want to see Lord Orochimaru. I don't believe Lord Orochimaru is dead. You must have betrayed Lord Orochimaru and imprisoned him. BD, I will kill you. Damn Yakushi Kabuto. Why did you stop us from avenging Lord Orochimaru? I want to go to Konoha and kill those Konoha shinobi. You bastard, shut up. If you keep arguing, I will kill you. Since Lord Orochimaru is dead, let me become the new Lord Orochimaru. You rubbish are only worthy of being my subordinates. These people started talking nonsense and making a lot of noise. Some of them are diehard fans of Orochimaru, and they still don't believe the news of Orochimaru's death. Some think that everything is a conspiracy and that Yakushi Kabuto has harmed Orochimaru. Others think that this is a test from Orochimaru. Now, Orochimaru was somewhere observing everything. Of course, there were also people who wanted to become the new Orochimaru and were ready to attack others. In short, these people were all mentally ill. Kamisato Iwahua had no interest in these people, although there were many bloodline limiters among them. Most of them were Orochimaru's experimental waste or inferior products, and Kamisato Iwahua had no interest in them. Are these the people? Kamisato Iwahua said coldly. Yes, just clean them up. Yakushi Kabuto nodded. As long as these people were cleaned up, the remaining people would be much easier to manage. Kamisato Iwahua nodded, and then directly opened the sixth gate of the 8 inner gates. Green chakra burst out from Kamisato Iwahua, attracting the attention of everyone below. They looked at the powerful Kamisato Iwahua and were shocked at first, then they all got excited. Good. Something interesting is coming. Is the killing finally going to start? I've been waiting for a long time. Is he the new container of Lord Orochimaru? Damn it, I want to destroy this guy. I want to prove to Lord Orochimaru that I am the best. I'm already excited, come on. Let me see what you trash can do. People were excited, and excited. This made Kamisato Iwahua speechless. Then he didn't talk nonsense with these people. 8 kunai appeared in his hand, and he shot them quickly at people. After shooting a round of kunai, Kamisato Iwahua had another 8 kunai in his hand. This was the second round. After 3 rounds, there were already 32 kunai scattered on the ground, all over every corner here. At the same time, the psychopaths in front of Kamisato Iwahua also began to attack Kamisato Iwahua. 0, please give me flowers. 0, 1, 3, 4, 0, 7, 2, 3, 0, 1, 4, 4, 3, 9, 0, 5, 8, 0. This made Yakushi Kabuto retreat quickly and come to a high platform, intending to see how Kamisato Iwahua would deal with these guys. Then Yakushi Kabuto saw the fighting style of Flying Thunder God. The figure of Kamisato Iwahua was constantly flashing. She was surrounded by the crowd on the left the previous moment and appeared in the corner on the right the next moment, with the sharp blade in her hand cutting someone's throat. Puff, puff, puff. Yakushi Kabuto's eyes widened. He couldn't see the details of Kamisato Iwahua's battle at all. He could only see Kamisato Iwahua's constantly flashing figure and hear the sound of the sharp blade cutting flesh and blood. When Kamisato Iwahua's figure completely stopped and stood in place without flashing, the ground was already full of corpses, and the base was completely quiet. Wiped the cold sweat from his head, Yakushi Kabuto realized more clearly the horror of Kamisato Iwahua at this moment. It's not that he hadn't heard about the Flying Thunder God technique before, but in Yakushi Kabuto's heart, it was just a rumor after all. He only regarded the fact that Namikaze Minato killed 50 ninjas from a Wagakure in an instant as an exaggerated rumor, and didn't think it was true. However, now, after seeing Kamisato Tsukika's crushing massacre, Yakushi Kabuto suddenly understood why Namikaze Minato was so feared. He also understood that the rumors about the Flying Thunder God technique were not rumors at all, but facts. This technique is really terrible in the hands of those who can use it. Are there any more to be solved? Kamisato Tsukika spoke, without panting or blushing, as if the previous battle was just a sip of water and a dumpling. There are 3 more Jnin. They are now in the Sound Village. Yakushi Kabuto spoke quickly and was more respectful to Kamisato Tsukika. But after he finished speaking, Yakushi Kabuto suddenly froze and looked at the passage on the other side of the base hall. Then he said with a little helplessness, "Now it seems that there is another thing to be solved here." Kamisato Tsukika did not speak, but just looked at the person opposite. It was a young boy. He stood there quietly, staring at Kamisato Tsukika, but his eyes were full of murderous intent. Kamisato Tsukika had seen this boy. In the Kingdom of Wind, his name is Kagaya Kimimaro, one of Orochimaru's most trusted subordinates. Chapter 99. Confrontation with Kagaya Kimimaro. Kagaya Kimimaro, the last bloodline of the Hui Yoruchi clan. He is also the last owner of the Dead Bone Pulse bloodline limit. But soon, this bloodline will be completely cut off. You killed Orochimaru-sama. Kagaya Kimimaro spoke. His tone was very calm and very firm. Even though Kamisato Tsukika was wearing a mask now, Kimimaro still came out of the trance. It seems that you want to seek revenge on me. Kamisato Tsukika also spoke calmly. He looked at Kagaya Kimimaro, This calm boy did not have any murderous aura. However, Kamisato Tsukika felt a kind of firmness in Kagaya Kimimaro. Orochimaru-sama has done me a favor. He is the meaning of my life. Kagaya Kimimaro spoke. He knew how strong the person on the other side was, so strong that he could easily crush him and kill him. But Kagaya Kimimaro no longer cared. From the moment Orochimaru died on September 17th, he was already dead. A dead person doesn't care whether he will be killed or not. You can't take revenge. Kamisato Tsukika spoke, but Inshin was sighing. Although many things that Orochimaru did were simply not human, no matter from which aspect, Orochimaru was an out-and-out villain. But Orochimaru's personality charm is indeed beyond reproach. Many people are devoted to him and are willing to sacrifice everything for him, including their own lives. However, this is also due to the general environment of the ninja world. The bad social environment of this world has created too many tragedies, leaving many people empty inside and unable to find the meaning of living. This kind of person is too easy to be devoted to others because of a little kindness given by others. I know, but I will still take revenge, which is the meaning of my not really dying yet. Kagaya Kimimaro said, closing his eyes. The next moment, he took the initiative to use the curse seal on his body. In fact, with Kagaya Kimimaro's current physical condition, using the curse seal is equivalent to suicide. But Kagaya Kimimaro knew better that if he didn't do this now, he might not even be able to use the curse seal later. The curse seal on Kagaya Kimimaro's chest spread quickly. In a blink of an eye, it covered his entire body, making Kagaya Kimimaro look like all the blood vessels in his body were emerging. But it wasn't over yet. This was just Kagaya Kimimaro's curse seal state 1. He knew how powerful Kamisato Tsukika was, so he didn't hold back at all, and immediately turned on the curse seal state 2. Kagaya Kimimaro's spine was completely bulging, and a tail grew on his body, which greatly changed Kimimaro's appearance. At this moment, Kimimaro turned from human into a humanoid monster. His aura became terrifying, and his strength had reached a very strong level, with the level of elite Chunin. This was also because Kagaya Kimimaro was seriously ill. If his body was not affected by the illness, his strength would only be stronger. But it was useless. Elite Chunin was already famous in the ninja world, and countless ninjas needed to look up to them. But in Kamisato Tsukika's eyes, it was not worth mentioning. He didn't even need to take such a powerful ninja into consideration. You are really worthy of being senior Orochimaru. The curse seal you researched is really something. Kamisato Tsukika spoke, then looked at Kagaya Kimimaro and continued. Loyal people have always been respected. Even if you are more like a dead man, I will give you a chance to fight. Come on, seek revenge on me. As soon as Kamisato Tsukika finished speaking, Kagaya Kimimaro moved. Deadbone pulse 10, finger-piercing bullet. The phalanges of Kagaya Kimimaro's 10 fingers were instantly fired out like bullets, and the target was Kamisato Tsukika. This was his dead bone pulse ability. The phalanges could grow infinitely. Even if all the phalanges were fired out, they could be remade. Moreover, their power was so strong that even Gaara-san defense could barely resist it. But this kind of power was only relative. For ordinary ninjas, it was very powerful. For Kamisato Tsukika, it was no different from a child playing house. Kamisato Tsukika didn't even move her body, but just shook left and right to avoid these phalanges. However, Kagaya Kimimaro didn't think of using such a technique to hurt Kamisato Tsukika. He just used it as a means to help himself get close to Kamisato Tsukika. After using the 10-finger piercing bullet, Kagaya Kimimaro rushed towards Kamisato Tsukika like a beast. He was very fast because he knew he was going to die, so he abandoned all distractions and focused his attention. In this state of high concentration, Kagaya Kimimaro seemed to have entered a state of unity between man and nature, and his strength increased instead of decreasing. Soon, Kagaya Kimimaro rushed to Kamisato Tsukika and slapped his palm towards her. But it was not a simple slap because when Kagaya Kimimaro swung his palm, sharp bone spurs suddenly appeared. 0 at the same time, bones suddenly pierced out of Kagaya Kimimaro's body, making him look like a hedgehog. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Kagaya Kimimaro kept attacking very quickly, and there were bursts of air-breaking sounds. Kamisato Tsukika dodged quickly, and his reaction was even faster than Kagaya Kimimaro. Although his body was retreating quickly, Kagaya Kimimaro's attack could not touch Kamisato Tsukika at all. Boom! At a certain moment, Kagaya Kimimaro punched a deep hole in the wall of the hall, and the target he was going to attack, Kamisato Tsukika, disappeared from his sight. What an amazing fighting talent. No wonder Senior Orochimaru values you so much. The voice came from the other side. Kagaya Kimimaro, who had stopped, turned around and looked at Kamisato Uehua, who had appeared in the distance. He was still expressionless, but his heart was inevitably bitter. The gap between the two was too big. Even if he gave up his life and death and went all out, he could not pose any threat to Kamisato Uehua. Revenge? It's just wishful thinking. But even so, some things must be done. Kagaya Kimimaro calmed his inner emotions and attacked Kamisato Uehua again. This time his speed seemed to be faster. It was an ultimate burst. He didn't consider any tactics. As long as he could attack Kamisato Uehua, it was enough. And this time Kamisato Uehua didn't dodge again. He directly fought with Kagaya Kimimaro in close combat to test the weight of Deadbone Pulse. The two of them attacked 1.1 continuously, and their movements were very fast, which made Yakushi on the side Kabuto couldn't see clearly. But even if he couldn't see the specific fight between the two, Yakushi Kabuto knew very well that Kimimaro was severely suppressed by Kamisato Tsukika. He was constantly attacked by Kamisato Tsukika, but he couldn't make even one effective attack on Kamisato Tsukika. The gap between the two was really too big. At a certain moment, Kagaya Kimimaro stopped, already panting. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, feeling the severe pain from his body, knowing that his body was on the verge of collapse, and it might not be long before his body would completely collapse, and he would die. Then, let's balloon the last dance. Kagaya Kimimaro thought to himself. The next moment, he used his last strength, Deadbone Pulse Fern Dance. Chapter 100 Mission for Yakushi Kabuto Deadbone Pulse Fern Dance. When Kagaya Kimimaro knew that revenge was hopeless and that he was about to die, he chose to bloom. He showed his last dance to Kamisato Tsukika. At this moment, the power from Deadbone Pulse burst out with all his strength. The chakra in Kagaya Kimimaro's body also poured out without reservation. Instantly, the earth seemed to shake, and in the hall of the base, white bones broke out of the ground. The sharp bones were like sharp blades, attacking their opponent, the powerful boy who was invincible. When the bones stopped growing and Kagaya Kimimaro condensed into a statue, the bones had completely covered the entire hall. The ground, the walls, every place was covered with bones, turning this space into a forest of bones. This is definitely the most comprehensive attack, a terrifying move that is hard to defend against. Even if the elite Genin is here, I am afraid they will be injured. And even if they are not careful, they may be killed on the spot. This was also the last bloom of Kagaya Kimimaro. After this amazing dance, his life also dissipated, and his life was frozen. The 30-bone vein of the corpse also came to an end. Kamisato Uehua stood on a bone spur, looking at Kagaya Kimimaro, who was standing close to her and motionless like a statue, and sighed slightly in her heart. If he had not been tortured by illness, if he was in his prime, then Kagaya Kimimaro would probably have stepped into the level of Kage and become an out-and-out Kage level. But unfortunately, his journey ended here. Let's go. There's still 3 guys to be dealt with. Kamisato Uehua grabbed Yakushi Kabuto, who was still frightened and sweating, and directly used the Flying Thunder God technique to leave this space that was completely occupied by bones. Kagaya Kimimaro's last fern dance did not pose any threat to Kamisato Uehua, but almost took Yakushi Kabuto's life just now. In Oto Geikure, Kamisato Tsukika and Yakushi Kabuto were not hiding at all, so they were noticed when they entered. This made the ordinary ninjas of Oto Geikure feel uneasy. They watched Yakushi Kabuto and Kamisato Tsukika enter the leader's building, knowing that it would not be long before the new master of Odo Geikure was born. And Yakushi Kabuto and Kamisato Tsukika did not let them wait for long. After only 2 minutes, Yakushi Kabuto opened the window and called several Odo Geikure below to go up. Then, 3 bodies were carried out of the leader's building. Obviously, the new leader of Odo Geikure was born, and Yakushi Kabuto became the new owner of this building. Of course, what these Odo Geikure did not know was that the new owner of Odo Geikure was just someone else's running dog. The real owner of Odo Geikure was the masked boy. He was also the one who killed the previous leader of Odo Geikure, Orochimaru. Leader's building. Kamisato Uehua sat in the leader's position, while Yakushi Kabuto stood respectfully aside, waiting for Kamisato Uehua to speak. To be honest, Yakushi Kabuto still didn't know what Kamisato Uehua was going to do. Kamisato Uehua was looking at the materials in his hand. These were Orochimaru's experimental project materials, experimental content, experimental data, etc. After looking at the materials of several experiments, Kamisato Uehua put them down and sighed. It seems that Senior Orochimaru has done a lot of amazing experiments over the years. But unfortunately, his direction is wrong. In these experiments, Kamisato Tsukika saw Orochimaru's desire for immortality. These experiments were also carried out around this purpose. But unfortunately, Orochimaru's experimental direction was wrong from the beginning. This mistake came from Orochimaru's shallow understanding of the world. He didn't know the origin of chakra, the origin of ninjas, and the origin of bloodline limits. He wanted immortality, and he wanted to change his body through reincarnation, not to build an immortal body. But it was normal that Orochimaru didn't think about building an immortal body. After all, in his cognition, the body will age, and no one can break this rule. Even the most powerful ninjas cannot avoid the aging of the body. As strong as first Hokage Senju Hashirama, even if his cell activity is dozens of times that of ordinary people, he can't change the reality of aging. Therefore, abandoning the old body and always having a young body is the most correct way to immortality. However, the fact is that constantly changing the body will hurt the soul. If you want to solve the problem of immortality by changing the body, you also need to solve the soul. Orochimaru realized this problem and tried to solve it and achieved certain results. But it was still useless. It was fundamentally wrong to rely on reincarnation to achieve immortality. Orochimaru was limited by his own cognition. But if he knew the truth about the ninja world, knew that chakra came from the chakra fruit, and knew that there was a race like the Tsutsuki clan that could easily live for thousands of years. Knowing that eating the chakra fruit would make you immortal, then Orochimaru would definitely change the content of his research. He would definitely try to cultivate a new chakra fruit, and would also try to fuse different bloodlines to create a body of the Tsutsuki clan. But unfortunately, it was too late. Yakushi Kabuto heard Kamisato Tsukika's sigh and didn't say anything, but he didn't care in his heart, thinking that Kamisato Tsukika was too conceited. In terms of strength, perhaps Kamisato Tsukika has a very strong power and can even kill the uninjured Orochimaru 073 Maru. But in scientific research, Yakushi Kabuto does not think Kamisato Tsukika can be compared with Orochimaru. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, Kamisato Tsukika asks him to do whatever he wants. Whatever Kamisato Tsukika says, that's it. Since these troubles have been solved, it will not take long for Senior Yakushi Kabuto to completely take over everything left by Orochimaru. Kamisato Tsukika spoke. Yakushi Kabuto's heart condensed, and he listened attentively. He knew what he was going to do next, and he would know it soon. Sure enough, Kamisato Tsukika paused for a while, and then continued. I need you to collect blood limiters, and I don't need them to be very strong. Just collect them and manage them yourself. In addition, help me collect the cells of those dead strong men in the ninja world. Reanimation jutsu. You must understand, you know what I want. Kamiri Tsukika spoke, which made Yakushi Kabuto stunned, and a lot of thoughts suddenly appeared in his mind. But he remained calm and nodded calmly. I understand, Lord Kamisato. Okay, then let's do this. I will take the initiative to find you if there is anything. If you need to find me, you can still use the previous method. However, you can also find someone to serve as a contact between us. After Kamisato Tsukika finished speaking, her body disappeared instantly.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.